Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back for more Daybell trial. Thank you for coming in tonight. I want to say hello to the mods. We've got the lovely Cheryl T, Shell, and Kendi coming in early to moderate this stream. We have 2 new members since our last stream just, a couple hours ago. Carrie H. Welcome, Carrie H. And welcome, Funky Jasunky. Funky Jasunky. Welcome, guys. Make sure you utilize your Discord apps. If you would like to become a member, just ask a member of the moderator group. They are in blue, and they'll let you know how to become a member. I hope my mic sounds better than earlier. It did have some electronic feedback, so I apologize for that. Apologize. What's up, Bud Bundy? I'm seeing lots of new names lately. Pinky's Vlog. Nice. Right on time. Yes. Hello, Casey Marie and Ems. Thank you for joining. One-Eyed Flo. Let's get into our stream, shall we? The first thing we're going to watch is day 7. And they had an early day on day 7. So they cut after just a few hours. So we're going to finish up Melanie Gibb's cross-examination from day 7. Then we're going to go into today, which was day 8, and watch some of today's. So just to let you know, this is day 7. This is, hey, Olip. This is day 7, and this is the cross-examination continuing of Melanie Gibb.
Jurors have returned and each have signed their juror affirmations this morning. So if we're ready to continue with evidence, it's cross-examination of Ms. Gibb this morning, who has returned on the witness stand. Is the state ready to proceed and have the jurors brought in?
We are,
yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
From the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with that. And as I mentioned to counsel, we'll discuss as the day moves along what time we might conclude for the day, but we'll see how things are going in terms of length of this witness and the next. So if we'll go ahead and have the jurors brought in at this time, please, Mr. Bailiff.
Mr. Bailiff, bring them all in.
You
want a cough drop?
The way she says, it makes me want to just gouge my eyeballs out. Are you guys having a good evening? I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Admonition and instruction in that regard. With that, if we're ready to continue
Here we go.
Cross, you can go ahead and take the podium, Mr. Pryor, and we'll continue.
Give it up.
All right. Before you begin your cross, Mr. Pryor, I'll just inquire of the witness. First, I'll remind you are still under oath, Ms. Gibb, and I'll ask, did you review anything about the case or your testimony or discuss your testimony with anyone else?
Of course she did.
When we concluded.
You know she watched her ass on TV.
She indicated no. So with that, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to continue with cross, you can do that now.
Ms. Gibb, I want to go over just a couple of preliminary matters if we could first to start there, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
The first thing is you never did provide a hair sample to any law enforcement agency in this case. Is that right?
Correct.
You never turned over your phone or was requested to turn over your phone to any law enforcement agency. Is that correct?
Correct.
You were never requested or did turn over any email or any email accounts or social media accounts to law enforcement at their request. Is that correct?
Correct.
You did, however, in 2021, provide a DNA sample to a Rexburg or a Fremont County officer a couple of years after this alleged incident. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about an organization that I think you're affiliated with called Seven Gatherers. Are you familiar with the term Seven Gatherers?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
Sure, you're not. Seven gatherers. 8 passengers, 7 gatherers.
Initially, there was some discussion about Chad and Lori. Obviously, we're getting very close during the early parts of January and February of 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at any time, did they talk about having a plan to spend their lives together?
At some point they did.
Do you recall when that was?
I would say they kind of talked about it in the beginning of the relationship about being part of the head of the 144,000. I would say within a month or two. I'm not sure exactly the day.
Well, I appreciate the religious references, but I was talking more on a personal note that they were planning if when Tammy passed away that they were going to spend their lives together. Did you ever overhear that kind of a discussion?
I guess kind of. Yeah.
And on that note, we previously touched on the fact that Chad and a number of his speaking engagements prior to even knowing Lori Vallow spoke about his, and I want to use the right word, his premonitions, I guess, about Tammy not having a long life. Recall that?
Yes.
And you were present for at least a couple of those, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it was also common knowledge that Chad had openly discussed the fact that he felt his wife was not going to live long well before he ever met Lori Vallow, right?
Right.
Okay. And in fact, you touched on that when you had one of your text message conversations with Prosecutor Wood. You had mentioned that.
More text?
Let me.
Oh, Lord.
Do you recall having that discussion?
It's possible, but I don't recall it.
Okay. Is it possible that you told him that Chad made it known to a lot of his close friends that he knew that Tammy wasn't going to live long?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't need to go into that.
We don't need to get into that. Weird. Why would he make it known that she's not going to live long?
Now, at no
Sketchy.
time did Chad Daybell ever tell you that he intended to do harm to Tammy Daybell, did he?
Correct.
And in fact, at no time did Chad Daybell ever tell you that he intended to do harm to J.J. Vallow or Tylee Ryan.
Correct.
Okay. So this plan that they had to spend their lives together would only have occurred if either Chad divorced Tammy Daybell or that if the premonition was accurate and Tammy had passed away, that they would be able to spend their lives together, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go back to the discussion in late November when you claim that you got a call from Chad about not wanting to talk to the police, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, to put a little foundation in this, on the weekend of the 19th through the 23rd, you were at Lori Vallow's townhome that night, right?
Are you talking about November?
September of 19th through the 23rd, you were at,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
just putting a little foundation in place. You were at there, and then part of that was to go to a seminar. There were a number of other things as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in your eyes, that was the last time that you saw J.J. Vallow alive, right?
Correct.
Okay. And did you later come to learn that the prosecutors and the state's allegations are that J.J. was murdered at or around the time that you folks were there for that podcast?
Hey, Troy.
I wasn't aware of that.
You've never become aware of that?
I wasn't aware that they were murdered. I knew that the word was missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And subsequently, you've learned that the allegation is that there's an alleged murder that took place at or around the weekend of the 19th through the 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your testimony is that Chad Daybell called you and said, don't talk to the police. Is that what
Correct.
it was on the 19th? And do you remember the date of that?
I remember it was 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving. So it was in November, whenever the Thanksgiving was.
And would the 25th of November ring a bell, possibly?
It's possible.
Okay. Now, prior to November 23rd, did you have any phone conversations with Lori Vallow giving you a warning that Chad was going to call you?
No.
Okay. But when Chad spoke with you at that time, he did tell you that Lori was going to get a hold of you afterwards, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, Ms. Gibb, isn't it true that on November 25th of 2019, Chad Daybell contacted you and specifically asked you, where is JJ Vallow?
And no,
And yet, during that conversation, he told you that Lori was going to be contacting you, right?
that's right.
And then after that, did Lori contact you?
She did.
And what was the discussion?
She
Ms.
did.
Gibb?
She told me that
Miss
the police had
Gibb.
come asking for JJ and that she had told them that I had JJ and that I needed to
Wait for it.
Go to a movie called Frozen, take some pictures.
Okay.
Back.
So your denial of the fact that Chad called you, you're denying the fact that Chad Daybell called you on the 25th, seeking out information as to where JJ Vallow is. You're denying that, right?
Yes.
Okay. But yet Lori Vallow calls you back
Mhm.
after Chad Daybell and says, I need you to cover for me and tell that police that you have JJ Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And
But
she
Mr.
did.
Daybell also during that conversation said, you're going to hear from Lori.
Correct.
Did Lori ever tell you, I told Chad that JJ was with you and go along with this story?
I don't believe so.
Okay, but you don't know for sure, do you?
I can't remember. I can't recall all the words I said to
Oh,
her.
okay. All right. Okay, fair enough. And then was it that day or was it the next day that the police officers called you?
It was the same day.
Okay. And at that point, you told them that you had JJ Vallow, didn't you?
Not initially, but by the end of the day, yes.
Okay.
Dude, you
You
lied.
basically told them during that day that you had possession of JJ Vallow. Is that right?
I said I had him and then I didn't have him.
Well, no,
That's
we're
the
going to
words
go
I
one at a
used.
time,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
At the first opportunity to have discussion with the police and discuss where JJ Vallow was, you told them you had JJ Vallow.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm having some
Because you're a
difficulty
liar.
with the fact that Chad's trying to cover something up. And yet after a phone call from Lori discussing to tell them that you had JJ, you suddenly go along and say, yes, I had JJ Vallow.
Fair objection. This is a narrative. I'd ask to strike.
Sustain.
There they go again,
And then
cutting
at
it
some
off.
point subsequent to that point, you decided to tell the police, well, I lied about this because I was having an emotional issue with how to deal with this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did it take you for you to have that emotional reflection to go back to the police and tell them, I'm not going along with this lie that Lori and I came up with?
A few weeks.
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Well,
He already
it's been
answered.
answered by the witness. It's late, overruled.
Okay. A couple of weeks it took you to decide that I better tell the police the truth, right?
Right.
Okay. And then at some point you said that you decided to go.
Okay, so she lied. She lied about having JJ, and she just admitted, even though Wood objected, she already answered. She just admitted that it took her a couple weeks. Took her a couple weeks to come forward and say she didn't have him. Y'all want to hear that part again? Let's go back a few minutes.
Okay.
Back.
So your denial of the fact that Chad called you, you're denying the fact that Chad Daybell called you on the 25th, seeking out information as to where JJ Vallow is. You're denying that, right?
Yes.
Okay. But yet Lori Vallow calls you back
Mhm.
after Chad Daybell and says, I need you to cover for me and tell that police that you have JJ Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But Mr. Daybell also during that conversation said, you're going to hear from Lori.
Correct.
Did Lori ever tell you, I told Chad that JJ was with you and go along with this story?
I don't believe so.
Okay. But you don't know for sure, do you?
I can't remember. I can't recall all the words I said to
Oh,
her.
okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. And then was it that day or was it the next day that the police officers called you?
It was the same day.
Okay. And at that point, you told them that you had JJ Vallow, didn't you?
Not initially, but by the end of the day, yes.
Okay. You basically told them during that day that you had possession of JJ Vallow. Is that right?
I said I had him and then I didn't have him.
Well, no,
That's
we're
the
going to
words
go
I
one at a
used.
time,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
At the first opportunity to have discussion with the police and discuss where JJ Vallow was, you told them you had JJ Vallow.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm having some difficulty with the fact that Chad's trying to cover something up. And yet after a phone call from Lori discussing to tell them that you had JJ, you suddenly go along and say, yes, I had JJ Vallow.
Your objection. This is a narrative. I'd ask to strike.
Sustained.
All right. And then at some point subsequent to that point, you decided to tell the police, well, I lied about this because I was having an emotional issue with how to deal with this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did it take you for you to have that emotional reflection to go back to the police and tell them, I'm not going along with this lie that Lori and I came up with?
A few weeks.
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Well, it's already been answered by the witness. It's late, overruled.
Did you catch?
A couple of weeks it took you to.
Did you catch how he got that in? That Lori and I came up with, and then she answers the question. She's like, she didn't even say like, Lori and I didn't come up with that. Like that was Lori's plan, but she answered it. Carolina, I'm so glad to have you here. There are so many good vibes here and good people, and I am glad to have you.
Chad's trying to cover something up. And yet after a phone call from Lori discussing to tell them that you had JJ, you suddenly go along and say, yes, I had JJ Vallow.
Your objection. This is a narrative. I'd ask to strike.
Sustained.
All right. And then at some point subsequent to that point, you decided to tell the police, well, I lied about this because I was having an emotional issue with how to deal with this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did it take you for you to have that emotional
Right here.
reflection to go back to the police and tell them, I'm not going along with this lie that Lori and I came up with?
A few weeks.
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Even though he's defending Chad, the devil, the chin, Daybell, I love that he is taking the opportunity to expose Melanie Gibb. Because right now, the whole world is paying attention to this trial in one way, shape, or form. This story has made it worldwide. And I hope everybody knows what kind of a kook, evil, POS Melanie Gibb is. She wanted to ride that chin, and Lori got it first, and I think she was jealous.
Well, it's already been answered by the witness. It's late, overruled.
Okay. A couple of weeks it took you to decide that I better tell the police the truth, right?
Right.
Okay.
Mike comes
And then
in.
at some point you said that you
Hey, Mike.
decided to go and excuse me. You decided to go to the police to let them know what really happened. And that was the 2 weeks later, right?
However many times it was, how many weeks, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And then at some point yesterday, you testified that without talking to any law enforcement, you then took it upon yourself to record the conversation between you and Lori, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Ms. Gibb, and that occurred on about the 8th of December of 2019. Does that sound correct?
If you're referring to the recording, yes.
Recording, yes. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you recall having a call to Ray Hermosillo?
Yes.
Right. And well, your testimony previously was, or yesterday was that you didn't talk to anybody from the police department before you made that call, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Oh, shit.
Overruled.
You testified that you did not call or talk
Answer
to
it,
anybody with law
bitch.
enforcement prior to recording that call to Lori Vallow. Is that correct?
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object. This misstates her testimony.
No.
I'll sustain that objection.
Oh.
Okay.
In the
Did you
name
have any
of
contact with law
Jesus, Father
enforcement
God,
prior
Lord,
to making that recorded call to Chad and Lori?
TT.
I wasn't aware of the dates, so I'm not sure exactly when those dates were.
Oh, so are you saying you did talk to law enforcement?
I did.
Oh, prior to it, right?
I'm not sure of the dates.
Okay. Well, would it refresh your recollection that there were 2 calls to the Rexburg police with Ray Hermosillo on the 6th of December and the 7th of December? Does that spark your memory a little bit?
Spark it.
No, I don't recall the dates.
Okay.
It's just your memory, not mine.
Ooh.
And you don't have any recollection of talking to the police beforehand then, right?
Beforehand, what?
Before you recorded the call to Chad?
I could have, or after, before. I didn't recall the timing.
Well, isn't it true you testified yesterday that you didn't talk to the police when it was inquired?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. That misstates
It
the
is.
testimony.
Sustained.
So you did talk to the police on the 6th and 7th with Ray Hermosillo by phone before you made that phone recording to Chad and Lori, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered. She's already said she doesn't recall the dates.
I'll overrule that if she has any additional answer.
Ma'am?
You want to repeat the question, Mr.
Oh.
Pryor?
There was contact with law enforcement before you made that recording, right?
There was contact. I don't recall the time.
And you don't even recall the date, right?
No.
Okay. All right.
Hate you, I hate
Now,
you, fuck
during
you,
that
fuck
phone
you,
call,
fuck
I
you.
touched on this yesterday a little bit.
Mike?
And Lori's comments on the phone call were, I had to move her somewhere else. You recall that?
Sounds familiar. Yes.
I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do.
Right.
I love you so much. I know, and you said, I know you do, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I noticed during the phone call that the majority of the conversation was between you and Lori. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And that the only time Chad got on the phone call is when he was talking about, his premonition about Tammy, and that he feels that someone's trying to jump on him as a result of this issue between you and Lori. Would that be fair?
Objection, Your Honor. The call speaks for itself, and that misstates what was in the call.
Sustained.
But you would agree with me that Chad was really not a primary or significant portion of that call, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the things I took note of during the phone call was that Lori made the comment, you more than anyone else knows the truth when she was talking to you. Do you
Yeah.
recall that?
Yes.
Isn't it true, ma'am, that that was a way for her to hide the fact that, Miss Gibb, you and Lori Vallow know the truth about what happened to JJ Vallow on the 23rd of September, correct?
No.
Okay. How about the 22nd of September, ma'am?
I
No.
didn't have my stuff pinned. I thought
Isn't it true that Lori was being very vague on that phone call because Chad was there and she didn't want Chad to know that you were going to talk about the murder of JJ Vallow?
I have no idea what her agenda was.
Okay.
Oh, yes, you do, Melanie. Let me get those up so y'all can see them. I'll show you when I pin the comments, like I can see the pictures big of everybody. Here, I'll show you.
Now, ma'am, there's been some reference to names, people using different names. Chad, Lori, yourself, and the name James and Elena came up, right?
Chad, Lori,
Yes.
and
You're familiar with
yourself.
that.
Yes.
Are you also familiar with the fact that that was a novel that Chad was writing about his relationship with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. So that all of that discussion about James and Elena was Chad using one of his personal experiences, maybe not a proper experience, but an experience about his relationship with Lori, and he assigned names to those two folks, correct?
I wouldn't know his agenda.
Okay. Now, you also had a nickname as well, right?
Yes.
Phoebe?
Phoebe!
Yes. That sounds
You
familiar.
went by Phoebe? It's a nickname?
Very occasionally she would say that.
Okay.
Yes.
Phoebe!
And Judge, this slide I'm about to show comes from Exhibit 7D, which was previously admitted by
Directly
stipulation
off.
of the parties. I can show it to counsel if you'd like.
Oh, Mel Gibb went by Phoebe. Oh my gosh. I wonder who Phoebe was in his
The
book.
and I'll try to navigate through that if I can.
They
See how
were
well we do that.
definitely.
Is this defense exhibit 70?
It is Defense Exhibit 7, Judge, and
Oh,
subsection D.
7. Okay.
7, I'm sorry,
God
7.
almighty.
Hey, 911
That Elmo
operator.
has both a light and a zoom in out feature on it, Mr. Pryor.
Oh boy. TT. I love your
Moving up,
name.
Judge.
McNo.
This was in a book. I wonder what Phoebe, Elena, and what's his name? Elena. Wait, what was Chad's name? Elena and Phoebe. How many women did he have in his books? What was Zulima's name?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Instead of knocking boots.
Can I have you stand here for me? Okay. So you previously discussed the fact that you never talked about dark portals or dark lives and things like that, correct?
Well, I didn't go around teaching them to people that I can recall.
Okay. Well, this is an email. I'll represent this as an email from Lori Vallow to you, and it says Phoebe. And then you responded with the email below, and I apologize for the print on there, but if you could read from thanks and go down to the bottom to me.
Thanks. I love you so much. I'm going to teach you right now, teaching about discerning and shutting off dark portals.
Now, I will represent to you that that was an email that was put together.
She says she
it was
didn't
from
teach.
you to Lori Vallow. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that email.
Okay. But in that email, you're talking about teaching people about dark portals. Correct?
It sounds like she said she was going to teach
No,
me.
bitch, it was you.
Do we need to look at it again, Jeff? Can I approach the witness with the exhibit?
If you've got a printed copy, you can have the
He's
bailiff
going to give her
take
the
the
exhibit.
exhibit
She's
to the
lying.
witness.
He was Raphael. No, he wasn't. Was he?
Judge, may we approach briefly?
Yes.
Oh, now this bitch gonna go up there and whine. This is narrative, Judge. We don't want them talking about this. She has immunity. We're not supposed to expose that she was teaching about portals. We don't want her to leave this courtroom and be targeted, Judge. Bullshit.
Fuck directly off.
Look at him opening his laptop. He opens it with his chin. Open your laptop with your chin? I mean, this is just bullshit, man.
La, la, la,
Okay.
la, la. You don't hold account.
Look at him. I'm trying to stay busy. Daybell. Chad, I'm trying to stay busy. Daybell. Girl, Mel, I can't stand this chick. I can't stand her. She was teaching about Chad's teachings more so than Lori was. And I think she wanted to screw Chad, but Lori got him because Lori looks better than her. And Lori can use sex as a manipulation tool very easily. And Mel Gibb is just a dumb, fucking stupid tag-along bitch. And I can't stand her. She knew that baby boy was dead. Look at him. Me, Mel, and Lori had a threesome.
Ms. Gibb, have you had a chance to read that?
Yes.
Mr. Bailiff, could I have that returned to me, please?
Oh my God, 47 months. Ride or die.
That
OG.
exhibit, Mr. Pryor, based on sidebar, we're going to designate defense exhibit 7C is what was just published to the jurors and given to the witness.
Now, Ms. Gibb, the date of this email from Lori Vallow to you was dated 7/25 of 2019.
Okay.
Okay. And at that time, you were in the process at about that time, very time, on the way to a mountain retreat camp to teach that in the next few days, right at the time you sent this, correct? Remember that?
No,
You don't remember that?
I don't remember anything about me teaching anybody anything like that.
You are
Okay.
such a
So
liar,
you're
Mel.
denying the fact that you and Ms. Vallow had a conversation and you talked about teaching and shutting off dark spirits or dark portals, right?
Incorrect. She shared that.
Oh, she shared that with you.
No, that text says that she wanted to teach me. It had nothing to do with what I responded
Bullshit.
to that I can see from that text.
Well, forgive me, but the text says, I'm going to teach right now, teaching about discerning and shutting off dark spirits. So it's your contention then that you're not Phoebe, right?
Well, I gathered from that conversation that she was sharing that with me.
Well, I gather from the conversation that you were sharing that with her. So we have a disagreement, don't we?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
He's so right, though.
So your position is you never talked or taught in any camp. Is that right? About dark portals? Is that what you're
That's
testifying to?
correct.
Okay.
Okay. Expose her, Pryor. I mean, this bitch lied straight to cops for weeks.
Now, you also previously testified that you never discussed dark and light or super dark or different levels of dark and light. Is that right?
I discussed it at times with probably people in the inner circle, but I didn't go around teaching it that I can recall.
The inner
I didn't ask about teaching. I said that you had discussions with people about light and dark then, right?
Right.
So that's not a term that's not unfamiliar to you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when you say the inner circle, does that include Mike James?
No.
Okay. So you never had a discussion with Mike James about
Thank you, Rox.
super dark and dark. Is that right?
Not to my recollection.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection that on November 12th of 2019, you contacted Lori Vallow complaining about Mike James and someone named Nancy being super dark? Does that refresh your recollection?
I don't recall that.
Okay. And if I were to show that to you, would that help you refresh your recollection?
It doesn't matter to me. Regardless, I just don't recall it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bailiff, could you provide this to Ms. Gibb?
Give it to her. Love you guys in Ottawa, Canada. That's awesome. I love my Canucks. Coo, woo, coo, 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 coo. Coo, woo, coo, 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 coo. If you know, you know. I know. I love that
And
I'm
when you're
stuck
done
with
reading
you.
that, would you set that or give that back to
I'm
me?
so happy to be stuck with you. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. I told you I'm losing my mind today, guys. It's all right. I think Mel wanted to have a threesome, but it never happened, which is why she's so snippy.
Mr. Bailiff, if I may, please.
Cheryl says, oh God, even saying that makes me gag. But it's true.
So you saw this.
They
Does
all
this
wanted
refresh your
his
recollection, Ms.
D.
Gibb?
No,
It doesn't.
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, do I need to show it to you again and ask you?
I can read it and I see what it says. I just don't recall that text.
Okay. So you don't recall talking about Mike James and asking for a favor and mentioning that someone named Nancy is super dark, but obviously there was that conversation, right?
According to that text, but I don't recall that text.
Okay. And talking about being violent and bad language.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. You're not denying that this text exists, are you?
No, I just don't recall it.
You just don't recall talking about super dark. So when you gave your testimony that you never really preached or talked about super dark or super light or anything like that, is that still accurate?
I don't recall talking to people outside of the inner circle about that.
Okay, well, that's Mike James, and you just told me Mike James is not in the inner circle.
He's not.
So that's somebody you were talking to Lori about, and it was based on a discussion about light and dark, right?
Right.
So you did talk outside your inner circle about this, didn't you?
Incorrect.
Incorrect? Well, Mike James isn't in your inner circle.
No.
Inner circle.
Mike James is unloading on me and says Nancy is super dark.
Mike
So are you suggesting that, it was just Mike James saying the super dark and you were just listening? Is that what you're saying?
I don't recall
Wait.
how I felt at that time or what he was.
She said, you guys you can't make this shit up. She texted Lori and she said, Mike James, listen, he reads her text.
So that's somebody you were talking to Lori about, and it was based on a discussion about light and dark, right?
Right.
So you did talk outside your inner circle about this, didn't you?
Listen.
Incorrect.
Incorrect? Well, Mike James isn't in your inner circle.
Wait,
No.
Mike James is unloading on me and says Nancy is super dark. So are you suggesting that, it was just Mike James saying the super dark and you were just listening? Is that what
now Nancy's like, holy fuck, I'm super dark. What? So whoever in the hell, you guys, I can't. So whoever this Mike James is, he's not in the inner circle, but Mike James was unloading on Melanie, saying that Nancy was super dark. And she didn't know what to do. So she was reaching out to Lore to ask, yeah, y'all are my inner circle. Okay, so Carolina, Potato's here now. Carolina, wait for it. Potato has a daughter named Phoebe. So if it's going to be ruined for anyone, it's going to be poor Potato. I get that you have characters that are named Phoebe that you love, but I was really, really gonna break this to potato in an easier way, but Melanie Gibb's pseudonym with Chad was Phoebe. If you're just joining. Oh my God, I can't. So the Mike thing is so funny. So Mike was unloading on her about Nancy being super dark. Who the fuck is Nancy? You guys, this is comedy. I mean, I know we have a very, very somber story. Don't think that I haven't forgotten what this piece of shit did, because I haven't. But my goodness, you can't make this crazy shit up.
Still accurate?
I don't recall talking to people outside of the inner circle about that.
Okay, well, that's Mike James, and you just told me Mike James is not in the inner circle.
He's not.
So that's somebody you were talking to Lori about, and it was based on a discussion about light and dark, right?
Right.
So you did talk outside your inner circle about this, didn't you?
Incorrect.
Incorrect? Well, Mike James isn't in your inner circle.
No.
Mike James.
Mike James is unloading on me and says Nancy is super dark. So are you suggesting that, it was just Mike James saying the super dark and you were just listening? Is that what you're saying?
I don't recall how I felt at that time or what he was saying in context. I just have no memory of that. I'm sorry.
Okay. And your lack of memory is
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. These have been asked and answered, and this is a narrative.
This last question was not a question. It was argumentative. It's sustained.
Judge, and I think I'm going to move on. Okay?
Sure.
You mentioned about castings.
No.
Right.
And it's your testimony that prior to meeting Lori Vallow, you never engaged in castings. Is that right?
Unbelievable.
Right.
Okay. But then when you met Lori Vallow, you started the process of engaging in castings.
Correct.
And you mentioned that as part of castings, physical violence to anyone was never part of the solution there, right?
Correct.
The solution was to engage in castings and pray to have evil spirits leave the body of the people you believe are possessed.
Correct.
Death was never in the equation for castings. Is that right?
I guess they eventually said that they would pass on if
I need to
the
get
evil spirits
another
would
drink.
leave.
I'll be right back.
So
Yo.
is that something that's consistent with your LDS
can't.
faith?
No.
But you engaged in that conduct, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did anybody force you to engage in that conduct?
No.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We previously talked about you going to Hawaii to visit Lori in 2019. Okay. Did Lori pay for your flight on that trip?
I don't think so. I don't recall.
You don't recall, right? Okay.
Super.
But Tylee was not there. That would you recall?
Not when I was there.
There were occasions when Lori would pay for people's flights. Do you recall that ever occurring?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you ever have a discussion with Lori about paying for Chad's flight to speak in Arizona?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Okay.
He's so condescending too. He's like, okay, he does not believe her bullshit.
I want to go back over the timeline a little bit about the weekend of the 19th through the 23rd. Okay.
Okay.
You arrived in Idaho Falls on the 19th. Is that what you recall?
Yes.
That was a Thursday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Lori picked you up at the airport. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was Alex there as well?
He wasn't in the car. No.
Okay.
Mel.
You also, on that Thursday, in a previous interview with law enforcement, mentioned that you went to a restaurant immediately upon arriving in Idaho Falls on that Thursday.
That's right.
And that restaurant, if I recall, was a Johnny Carino's. Does that ring a bell?
I just know it was an Italian restaurant.
Gene P. Did they really?
At that point, was JJ with you too when you went to Johnny Carino's?
I don't recall seeing him there.
Okay. Do you recall that Lori had hired a babysitter that day?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. And Alex was with you because the JJ was with a babysitter, right?
I believe he met us at the restaurant.
Okay. Okay.
Is Nancy still alive?
Okay.
Wait, hold on. I'm still back on this Nancy James. So Gene P said that Nancy James and her husband followed Chin Dumbbell from Rexford to Rexburg from Springville, Utah. So Mel Gibb says Mike James is unloading on me, saying Nancy is super dark. Is Nancy still alive? Because remember when they're dark like that, they cast. They cast the spirit out. And even if you get rid of the good spirit, you still fucking die. What's the point in casting the motherfucker out if you're going to die anyways? Someone make it make sense. Why not just keep the evil spirit in there and let it take the person? Why bother casting it out and letting it, and they're going to die anyway? These people are stupid.
After you were at the restaurant, do you recall that the two of you then went to a Walmart?
I don't recall.
Okay. It's possible you went to a Walmart afterwards, right?
It's possible.
Okay. And then
Fucking Walmart. Always Walmart.
you, after going to Johnny Carino's and going to the Walmart, it was relatively late that night, correct?
I don't
I feel
recall.
like it was in the afternoon.
Okay. Is that what you recall?
Yes.
I feel like it was in the afternoon.
But then is it your testimony that the remainder of the day you and Lori spent time together, you didn't see Chad, correct?
I don't recall if Chad came over or not. I just know I was with her.
And that was Thursday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then we move on to Friday. Do you recall going to a place called the Gravity Factory on Friday?
Some jump place.
I think that's what that was.
Some
Yeah, I
jump.
do recall going there.
Talked about that with law enforcement, right?
Yes.
I think you called it like a jump house or something like that.
Like that.
Let's put her on a fucking trampoline and shoot her
Do
up
you
to
remember
fucking
about
outer
what time
space
that,
where she belongs.
You folks went to the jump house
Fuck.
on Friday?
Well, I'm not sure it was Friday, but it was daylight outside.
Okay. Well, we know that it wasn't Thursday because we already discussed Thursday, correct?
I'm glad, Jess.
I can't say if it was or wasn't. It could we could have done it on Thursday.
You could have.
Yeah. I don't recall when we actually went.
Okay. So you recall telling law enforcement in an interview that on Friday you went to the jump house or to the
Welcome, Rox.
Gravity Factory? Do you recall telling law enforcement?
I don't recall the date I shared with him.
Okay. And you don't recall what time you went to the Gravity House or the jump house, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. On the Friday morning, do you recall going anywhere Friday morning?
I just know specific things we did. I just can't always recall exactly what day it was.
And then do you recall that after you had spent amount of time, before we get there, the jump house, that wasn't for you and Lori, right? That was for JJ?
Correct.
Okay.
That was
And you don't recall the number of hours you spent at the jump house, do you?
I would say it was maybe around 2 hours.
Okay.
Dude, can you
that
see
was-
can you see Mel Gibb and Lori in the jump house? Come on, Phoebe. Okay, Elena. Let's go jump in the jump house.
And my recollection is that was in Idaho Falls, correct?
I don't know where it was.
Oh, you don't remember?
I don't.
Okay. And then after the jump house, you and Lori and JJ was, oh, by the way, was Alex there too at the jump house with you guys?
I remember he came and went. He brought some pizza, I believe.
Alex.
Well, you guys went out for pizza, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
You didn't bring pizza.
I feel like he brought something in. That's just my memory.
Right.
Yeah.
What happened is you went to the jump house and then isn't it true you afterwards Alex came by and then all of you went out to have a bite to eat for dinner at a pizza place, correct?
I don't recall what day it was, but we did go out for pizza one night.
And then after you went out for pizza, you went back to the townhome, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, you went back because you had to gather your things to go pick up Dave, right?
I didn't have to pick up Dave.
Well, who picked up Dave?
No one.
He drove in?
Yes.
I was under the impression Dave flew in.
No.
Okay.
Dave. Okay, so they're talking about her boyfriend at the time. He loves calling him her boyfriend too, because these Mormons aren't supposed to have sex unless they're married and stuff. And he loves like making mention that it was just her boyfriend. But he says, "Oh, I was under the impression that Dave flew in," and she says, "No, he drove in."
That Dave flew in. That's not correct?
That's not correct.
Okay. And then on Friday evening,
What's up, Funky?
the folks in the townhouse that evening were you and Dave,
Correct.
your boyfriend at the time, Lori and Alex,
Yes.
and JJ.
And JJ. And I think Chad was there too.
Oh, how long was Chad there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Is it possible that Chad wasn't there?
It's possible.
Okay. And then do you recall if Alex and your boyfriend at the time were playing Guitar Hero with on a video game.
They were playing. I remember watching it.
Shut,
I might have at some.
shut the fuck. Is Pryor, dude, Pryor is killing me in this. Pryor is killing me. Warlock was playing Guitar Hero with Chin. Did I hear that right?
Is it possible that Chad wasn't there?
It's possible.
Okay. And then do you recall if
Wait.
Alex and
Alex and Warlock?
your boyfriend at the time were playing Guitar Hero with on a video game?
They were playing. I remember watching it. I might have at some point just jumped in a little bit and danced a little bit.
Okay. We don't. That's okay.
Mhm.
But the two of them had spent a considerable amount of time that Friday night playing Guitar Hero, Alex and Dave, correct?
No, I don't believe Dave ever did.
Oh, Dave watched Alex play?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And then we go on to Saturday.
Thank you so much, Jess.
You got up in the morning and prepared to go to this firm foundation thing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now,
Oh man, he's just bringing this shit out, isn't he? Thank you so much, Jess. Welcome new members.
you
5 new
remember in
members.
one of your text messages to Prosecutor Wood that you mentioned that you were there at
Wood?
the firm foundation for about 10 hours taking pictures. Do you recall talking to Prosecutor Wood about that?
I don't recall talking to him about that.
Is it possible you spoke to him about that?
It's possible.
Okay.
Oh man.
So you were at the firm foundation and you said you were there for about 10 hours, correct?
I think I was. I just don't remember.
Okay. And do you recall that it was rather late at night on Saturday when you got done with the firm foundation?
Yes, yes.
And you didn't see Chad that night either, did you?
I don't recall seeing him.
Okay, right. So then we go on to Sunday. And
This is her weekend at Lori's.
you and Dave slept in that morning, correct? Recall that?
I do not recall
They
that.
slept
Okay.
in.
Anyway, you woke up late, apparently, and Lori,
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the prior testimony in counsel's, it's a narrative.
Sustained.
is it possible you
Jeez.
slept in till late Sunday morning?
No,
It's not possible?
I don't sleep in.
Okay, thank you.
What? They slept in? What is hidden about them sleeping in? Gene P, what do you think's hidden there?
And then, do you recall that Lori gave you a haircut that Sunday?
Yes,
Okay, and how long did that take?
a few hours because she colored my hair too.
Okay, so that
Aw.
was Sunday morning, correct?
Welcome,
I
TT.
think so.
Okay, and do you recall about what time that was?
I don't.
Okay. Sometime in the morning, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you folks went to have lunch that after she cut your hair, correct?
No, I don't remember that at all.
Okay. Did you stay in the townhouse and bring lunch in?
I don't remember how the food was. I don't remember her having
Oh.
a lot of food. She might have made something. I don't remember.
Okay, but at that point, you hadn't seen Chad Daybell Sunday morning, correct?
No, I saw him Sunday morning.
You did? When was that?
Shortly after we went to this field behind a church building. So sometime in the
Mm.
morning. I felt like it was.
You went to a field?
Could have been late morning, but it was sometime.
Do you recall discussing with Lori that after Chad gets out of church Sunday afternoon, we'll go out and look at a piece of property? Do you recall having that conversation with Lori?
I don't recall, but it's possible.
Okay, so is it possible you're just confused about the facts and the time to go visit the land was really early to late afternoon on Sunday?
I felt like her seeing that piece of land that I talked about first, and then going to see that land for sale was second. That's just my memory.
Oh, so you went to see a piece of land with Lori first?
Well, I wouldn't consider it was just this empty field that was behind a church, but it wasn't for any purpose of being.
What were you going to
purchased.
use it for?
You were traveling to the piece of property that you were going to go look with Alex and David, but you were traveling with Lori at that point, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the testimony. It's a narrative. I'd move to strike.
Bullshit.
Overruled.
You were traveling with Lori to go look at the piece of property with the real estate person, correct?
No.
Who were you traveling with?
I don't know who I was traveling with. I think maybe Dave and I were in the truck and we drove over there. I don't remember.
You don't remember. So it's possible that you were traveling with Lori as well, right?
No.
Okay. So you remember you weren't with Lori.
Yeah, I remember.
but you had mentioned that you and Lori went to see a piece of parcel first.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And then subsequent to that, you went to look at another piece of property, correct?
Correct.
And then Chad was meeting you at that second piece of parcel, correct?
Correct.
And then do you recall you told in an interview to law enforcement that Chad was still in his church clothes at that point?
Could be.
Okay. Well, do you remember that or not?
I don't remember the conversation.
Okay. So it's possible that you told law enforcement that Chad was in his church clothes in the afternoon when he went out to see the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you did see Chad at the property at that point, correct?
Correct.
And that's the one we're really sure about, right?
I'm sure about both of them, but yes, he was at that one.
You're sure? Which is the other one that you're so sure about?
The one that we just talked about, the prior one,
Prior one about what?
the parcel that we went to first.
Okay. Oh, Chad was there too?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then afterwards, you went back to the townhome, correct?
I think so, but I don't recall for sure.
Okay. And Chad didn't go with you back to the townhome, did he?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then at that point, you were getting prepared for your podcast that you were going to do that night, right?
We didn't prepare for that till the evening.
Okay. And again, on a Sunday evening, Chad wasn't there for the podcast, correct?
Correct.
And then
Great.
just to clarify again,
But
after you
you're
did
a
the
liar.
podcast, that was late in the, well, it could have been as late as Saturday or Monday morning, but it was after midnight sometime, right?
I'm not sure if it was after midnight. I just know it was around that time.
Okay. And then and then we'll move on to Monday. And Monday, you departed
Mhm.
and left to go back home. Is that correct?
No.
What did you do on Monday?
Dave and I drove to Pocatello to see his son.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Julie.
you left at about 9:30.
That sounds about right.
Isn't it true that you and Alex and Dave drove by Chad's property Monday morning?
No.
Okay.
Monday
Judge,
morning.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
He's done with her. He's saying that they drove by Lori's, or drove by Chad's rather, Sunday morning. So I don't know what the significance is. He just wanted to out her, I think. So we go forward in Friday, and they really didn't do much. Let me see, what was this? Oh, yeah, we're going to go into today's and listen to the cross of this, where these text messages come out, where Lori basically gave Chad a freaking ultimatum. She basically gave him an ultimatum when he was out with his family. So let's listen to Pryor cross-examine.
Good morning. Break. We've sorted out the evidentiary issues we had on the record outside the jury's presence. Jury's returned at this time. Agent Hart remains on the stand, still under oath for testimony. The state concluded direct. So at this time, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to conduct cross-examination, you can do so.
And permission to approach the podium, Judge.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support, Jess, and everybody else. Members for 48 months, members for 1 month. You guys are all awesome. She is the worst. I'm waiting for I wonder if they're going to call Zulema. Chad's kids are going to be called by the defense. Chad's children will be testifying. So we'll be doing these highlights until that, like, the important stuff kicks in. We'll be watching that shit live. Like, we'll be streaming that during the day when his kids take the stand and stuff.
Good morning, Agent Hart.
Morning.
Now, would you prefer I refer to you as agent? You're a retired FBI agent, is that right?
I am retired. That's correct.
Is it your preference to be called chief deputy, or would you prefer agent?
Agent's a little less of a mouthful, so that's fine.
And then I'll take your suggestion and refer to you as agent, if that's okay. As part of your investigation,
Let me fix this.
you went over thousands of messages. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Tens of thousands of messages?
Yes,
Okay. Significant amount.
Where is Pryor?
And you put together
Oh, there he is.
a summary of what you thought were relevant messages, correct?
yes.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about who some of these messages were sent to, who received some of these messages. Obviously, you spoke in great detail about messages from Chad Daybell. Is that right?
Correct.
And Lori Vallow.
Yes.
Melanie Gibb.
No, Melanie Boudreau.
Well, did you ever have any that you reviewed from Melanie Gibb?
There are messages between Lori Vallow and Melanie.
Oh, he's
Gibb
going to
in the
throw her
iCloud
under the bus
that
more.
I have reviewed. Yes.
Okay, so there were messages that were involved with Melanie Gibb as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did any of these folks use other names in speaking with themselves, referring to others?
Humiliate them, Pryor.
Can you clarify? Do you mean that
So,
names other than
nicknames.
themselves?
Nicknames. Lori Vallow use any nicknames?
Yes.
What nicknames did Lori Vallow use?
For others or for herself?
For herself and when others responded to her?
She would be called Lolo. She would be called Lily.
Thank you, Julie.
Chad Daybell referred to her as Elena. And then there were numerous nicknames for her contacts that she had within the iCloud.
Okay, and then as far as Melanie Gibb, do you recall the nickname that Melanie Gibb used?
For herself?
For herself, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't recall that.
Come on. Yes, you do.
If I mention the word Phoebe, does that ring a bell?
Phoebe rings a bell, but I couldn't say definitively that that's associated with Melanie Gibb.
Okay. And if I were to show you a text message that referenced Phoebe to Lori Vallow, would that refresh your recollection?
It may.
Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. Other nicknames, other people, Alex Cox, did he have any nicknames?
Oh, no.
Um,
Homer?
Al was the most common one.
Okay.
What about Homer?
Melanie Boudreau?
Mostly Mel.
Okay. Anybody else you can think of?
Lori Vallow referred to Chad Daybell frequently as Bubby, Bubby.
Okay.
She referred
Anything
to
else?
Chad as Bubby? Ew.
Not that I would classify as nicknames. There were several occasions where others were assigned names by Chad Daybell, but I
Okay.
wouldn't call those nicknames.
Okay.
What
Now,
are
If
they?
I could have Elmo put up,
Who?
Madam Clerk.
Who's Elmo?
What are we going to put on the Elmo?
Judge, I'm
Oh.
going to ask the officer to go back to
Oh, we're going to show exhibits.
Referencing 183.
183, Judge.
All right,
All
let's get exhibits up here. The
183 has been admitted. So, and Mr. Pryor's mentioned before, there's a light and zoom feature on that Elmo for clarity.
I thought he was talking about like Elmo. Like these people are fucking weird. All right, let's see the emails. We're about to see emails between Mel Gibb and Lori, I believe. Here we go.
And there's a light there as well somewhere. There's a light switch that gets rid of the shadow. There you go. Thank you.
Wouldn't make it without any help, Judge, I promise you. So I want to start towards the end of what we talked about. And you talked about your
Can't read
analysis of this particular discussion or chain of text messages. And this is from the Lolly time at iCloud, Lori Vallow, right?
Correct.
And the last line,
Lolly time.
I want you to read 824 again for me.
Of course. I want to be with you. That is my greatest hope and dream. I would happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down.
And you interpreted this in what way?
I don't believe I interpreted it at all during my testimony. I read it into the record on direct.
Okay. Well, I'm a bit curious. I want to be with you. That's Chad responding that he wants to be with Lori Vallow, right?
Correct.
It's my greatest hope and dream. He wants to have a relationship with her, right?
Yes, I mean, they've been in a 10-month relationship at this point, but I think he
Okay.
wants that relationship to be overtly known to everyone.
Okay. And you said a 10-month relationship. So 8/11 of 2019. I go back 10 months, and that puts me right to October 31st, give or take a few days. So is it your testimony? You said 10 months. Is it your testimony that that relationship started immediately on October 31st, the first time they met?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. So they were in a physical relationship from the first time they met?
Ooh, yikes.
No, I testified that their physical relationship began the second time they met in person, which would have been November 15th through the 17th of 2018.
And your interpretation of what that physical relationship in 2 weeks later was what?
Cheapers.
What type of physical relationship they have 2 weeks later?
Chad Daybell wrote about it in great detail. They were
Oh, Lord.
kissing, fondling each other, in bed with each other, taking each other's clothes off.
Okay. And that, are you referring to the Jack and the Elena story? Is that what you're referring to?
James and
James and Elena. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I said Jack. James and Elena. Excuse me.
Jack!
You're talking about the James and Elena story, right?
He did
Correct.
not.
And you know what Chad Daybell does for a living, right?
Come on,
do.
Pryor.
He's an author.
Did he just say what I think he did? Did he call James, which is Chad's alias, Jack?
So they were in a physical relationship
Watch
from the first
Chad
time
when
they
he
met?
says Jack.
No, I testified that their physical relationship began the second time they met in person, which would have been November 15th through the 17th of 2018.
And your interpretation of what that physical relationship in 2 weeks later was what? What type of physical relationship they have 2 weeks later?
Chad Daybell wrote about it in great detail. They were kissing, fondling each other, in bed with each other, taking each other's clothes off.
Okay. And that, are you referring to the Jack and the Elena story? Is that what you're referring to?
James and
James and Elena. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I said Jack. James and Elena. Excuse me. You're talking about the James and Elena story,
I can't.
right?
Correct.
And you know what Chad Daybell does for a living, right?
I do.
He's an author.
Yes.
He writes books about experiences that people have, whether religious or otherwise, right?
Hi, Anna.
Yes.
And with every author, there's a little bit of exaggeration or artistic creativity whenever you're writing books. Would you agree with me?
Artistic.
If it's nonfiction, I would agree with you.
Okay. And you also know that this James and Elena was really a book in the making by Chad Daybell about his relationship with Lori Vallow, right?
Mm.
I wasn't aware that it's a book in the making. No.
Okay. So this was just him taking doing a literary exercise, just writing about his relationship with Lori Vallow, not for the purpose of doing anything with it, just writing about this and making notes using different names, right?
I believe it's a truthful and accurate story.
Okay.
Cheapers.
Okay. A truthful and accurate story that you're putting down in writing about a relationship you're having with a woman, right?
Yes,
With some artistic creativity applied to it, correct?
I'll agree.
Okay. Now, did you as part of your investigation, go back and look at some of Chad Daybell's writings?
We had someone in the investigative group do that. I've had some limited exposure to Chad Daybell's other writings, but I was not the individual who did an extensive analysis of those.
Okay. Are you aware that Chad Daybell made a habit of at least vaguely touching on some of his personal experiences when he wrote books?
Touching.
It's my understanding that a couple of his books were about his prior experiences in his life.
And one of his books was about his daughter Emma. In fact, the very book mentions the name Emma in the book, doesn't it not?
I couldn't tell you the title of the book, but I believe that's correct.
So it wouldn't have been particularly unusual for him, given his past about writing about his past experiences, to put together a book or a novel about a relationship he was having with Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct. I think the James and Elena story is about his relationship with Lori Vallow.
And it wouldn't be unusual, like in his other books, to maybe provide some artistic creativity as far as the facts are concerned, right?
Who
It
cares?
would depend on which facts you're talking about.
Right.
So what you're saying to me is that if the facts are helpful to the prosecuting attorney, he's not making it up.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. Move to strike.
Sustain.
You don't know which facts are creative in this story that he was writing Lori Vallow, do you?
I know that we were able to vet and verify an extensive number of facts from that story.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you whether the explicit sexual detail is accurate or not. But
Yeah,
the other elements
gross.
are accurate.
Okay. So when we go back to this lolly time that's up on the
Ugh.
board here and showing us, the last line is...
Let me just remind you guys of who Lolly is. Lolly is Lori's dead baby sister. She died as an infant. And Lori grows up and makes an email called Lolly Time. And then another one I think was Lolly Time Forever.
I would happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down. You see that line?
Okay, let's listen to this email now. Pay attention to what they're saying, because here he's trying to show that Lori like gave this man an ultimatum, and she was the one that was like reeling Chad in. So this is how I feel about all these people.
I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass.
For
I know
real.
that we were able to vet and verify an extensive number of facts from that story.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you whether the explicit sexual detail is accurate or not, but
Okay.
the other elements are accurate.
Okay. So when we go back to this lolly time that's up on the board here and showing us, the last line is, I would happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down. You see that line?
I do.
Okay. And you said you didn't offer any explanation as to what that meant.
On direct, I did not.
Okay. And that was on August 11th of 2019.
That's correct.
And
No, that was
it talks about
Stacy.
heaven would strike us down
It
in
does.
regards to the relationship.
Say again.
Well, it's in regards to the relationship, because I will happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down. That's what that says, isn't it?
It does.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with murder, does it?
I don't know that I could say entirely that it doesn't.
Okay. Does it have anything to do with the fact that maybe Mr. Daybell felt he couldn't divorce his wife, Tammy?
I don't know whether that's what that's in reference to or not.
Could it have anything to do with the possibility that Chad Daybell, as this so-called visionary who gets these premonitions, wouldn't leave his wife, Tammy, until his premonition came true that she would pass away?
Hold on. I just had an epiphany when I typed that. You guys, Lolly also had a heart condition problem. Remember? Joseph Ryan. Didn't he die of a heart attack? Tylee's dad. And then we have Tammy with the heart problem. Then we have Alex with the heart problem. Lolly. We still don't know what happened to Stacy. I mean, I read Stacy's divorce paperwork and custody. They were keeping Mel B from her biological father. Barry Cox and the mother. Stacy was all sick. You know what I mean? Stacy was very ill, so they said, and they kept her away from everybody, and then all of a sudden she was dead.
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence or the prior testimony.
Overruled.
You can answer that, officer.
Wait, let's go back. What was the
Again,
question?
I don't know what was in Chad Daybell's mind.
Wait, what was the question? Let's go back.
The board here and showing us. The last line is, I would happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down. You see that line?
I do.
Okay. And you said you didn't offer any explanation as to what that meant.
On direct, I did not.
Okay. And that was on August 11th of 2019.
That's correct.
And it talks about heaven would strike us down
It
in
does.
regards to the relationship.
Say again.
Well, it's in regards to the relationship because I will happily join you tomorrow if it felt like heaven would not strike us down. That's what that says, isn't it?
It does.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with murder, does it?
I don't know that I could say entirely that it doesn't.
Okay. Does it have anything to do with the fact that maybe Mr. Daybell felt he couldn't divorce his wife, Tammy?
I don't know
Mhm.
whether that's what that's in reference to or not.
Could it have anything to do with the possibility that Chad Daybell, as this so-called visionary who gets these premonitions, wouldn't leave his wife, Tammy, until his premonition came true that she would pass away?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence or the prior testimony.
Overruled.
You can answer that, officer.
Again, I don't know what was in Chad Daybell's mind as it relates to why heaven would strike him down if he joined Lori Vallow at that point.
Okay. Tens of thousands of text messages, right?
Yes.
I didn't see in any of these, and if you have them in the other 10,000 that you went through, show me the one that says, hey, this is Chad. Let's kill the kids.
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Oh my God.
And tries to put evidence not in fact.
Overruled.
Facts not in evidence.
Well, it's question on cross. It's overruled.
Show me the text. It says, let's kill the kids.
Well, that is argument, Mr. Pryor. If you want to ask if
Oh
there's
my
a
God,
text,
he
that would be
made
different.
he
Is
made
there a text that says, let's kill the kids?
Wait a minute.
There are several texts.
He made Boyce laugh. It's hard to get Boyce to laugh, but Pryor's doing it. Listen again.
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative, and tries to put evidence not in fact.
Overruled.
Facts not in evidence.
Well, it's question on cross. It's overruled.
Show me the text. It says, let's kill the kids.
Well, that is argument, Mr. Pryor. If you want to ask if there's a text, that would be different.
Is there a text that says, let's kill the kids?
There are several texts that talk in detail about the deaths of those two children. Yes.
Oh, well, in detail about the deaths and what happened during their deaths, right? Not let's kill the kids, are there?
Wait a minute. What do you mean what happened during their...
What I'm saying is that there's references to Tylee and JJ throughout text messages, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But there is not a text message that says, let's kill the kids, is there?
There are text message in those specific words, no, but certainly alluding to and planning for the deaths of Tylee and JJ, yes.
Okay. And what in reference to how they're planning to kill the kids, why don't you talk to me a little bit about that? What exactly did you come across that says, let's plan on killing the kids?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the testimony and is argumentative.
That is sustained.
You just made reference to the fact that there are text messages that talk about the planning of killing these kids, right?
Correct.
What text messages are you referring to?
There are several text messages between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell that refer to a plan to take the children and Chad Daybell's ability as a supposed visionary to understand when that might happen.
Okay. Okay. So there's no specific text message that talks about we're going to kill the kids and live happily ever after, is there?
I would disagree. Contextually, I think that's the meaning of those texts.
Okay. So in other words, you're interpreting those texts how you think they should be understood, right?
Well, those texts talk about the deaths using the word death of Tylee and JJ. It talks about their death percentage. and both Tylee and JJ ended up being murdered. So if that's context, then that's the conclusion I draw, yes.
Okay, so what you're referring to are the text message where a numeric number was assigned to particular children about death percentages, correct?
Assigned by Chad Daybell, yes.
Right. Now, we talked a little earlier, and that's why I'm leading into this with you. And you could probably help me a little bit. My recollection is you were talking something about Allie Bloomer, right?
Yes, that's the second slide.
Okay.
Who's Allie Bloomer?
Well, it's actually the third slide, isn't it?
Oh.
Can you go to the third one? You threw me off, right?
It starts on the second slide, and then it continues to the third slide.
So you
missed it.
So you talked about
There's
the
a
fact that
man who was
because
calling his wife dark
Chad
too.
Daybell put a numeric number on the children. That was the reason they were killed, right?
No, I wouldn't state it that way, that was the reason they were killed.
Okay. That supported your theory that they were killed because they were put a dark number on them, right?
I believe the dark number
Thank you, Flobo.
provided the justification
Welcome,
for them to
Nomi.
carry out those acts.
Okay. Okay, so when we go down to line 3000, would you read that one for me? The first two
Jesus,
sentences?
line 3000.
Allie Bloomer is 4.1 dark. Her cop husband is 3 dark.
Oh, her cop husband.
Okay. Now, to your knowledge, are Allie Bloomer and her husband dead?
To my knowledge, they are not.
Okay.
Allie Bloomer and her cop husband. Who the fuck are these people?
So when you assign a number dark, explain this. I mean, you probably know better than I do. Is this something that's part of the LDS faith?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Is there a reference in the LDS faith to light and dark?
Light and dark. Yes, there's reference throughout the Bible and the LDS faith to light and dark.
So if there was previous testimony by someone who suggested that light and dark is not part of the LDS faith, they're either mistaken or they're not being truthful. Would that be fair?
I don't think light and dark, as assigned by Chad Daybell, is part of the LDS faith.
That's not what I asked you, sir, and I appreciate you answering that way. What I asked you is that there is light and dark in the LDS faith, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Okay. It's overruled. There's a light and dark in the LDS faith, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're talking about is that there's a numeric system here. Is that what you're telling me? That Mr. Daybell's using?
Mm-hmm.
There is a numeric system that Mr. Daybell is using.
Okay. And you've never seen this with anybody else ever putting a numeric system on light and dark, correct?
I have not.
Okay.
Super dark.
And Allie Bloomer and her cop husband are not dead, right? To your knowledge?
To my knowledge, they are not.
Okay. So do you know how this dark numbering system works? Is high good or is low good, or how does that work on the dark spectrum?
From what I've been able to decipher based on my participation in the investigation, the higher the number, the worse it is.
Okay. So if you're a 1 dark, that you're better off being a 1 dark than you are being a 4 dark, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
This shit is crazy. Crazy town.
She said, we came home, we planted flowers.
Welcome, Nomi.
Judge, could I have exhibits 6 and 7?
Exhibity 6 and 7
Yes,
coming
I'll
up.
have the bailiff bring those over.
Mr. Bailiff.
Exhibity.
EXHIBITY.
Flung.
Ha, thanks,
If you could just bear with
Michelle.
me.
I can't believe these people thought Chad was a prophet. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. He's turning darker by the moment as it gets darker in the courtroom. So the jurors asked for those windows to be open.
Well, I'm waiting this to warm up a little bit. We'll move on and talk about a couple of other topics while I'm.
Did the windows get messed up
You
again?
talked about manipulation.
Oh, there we go.
Right? From both Chad and Lori.
Yes.
Now,
Mr. Pryor, just on the exhibit you've got continually being published there, if you're done with that, would you remove it from being published?
They're using a projector, like an old school projector. What happens when you're a 5 dark?
Well, your testimony is that you felt that Chad
Ain't
was
good.
Using his religious
Bad news.
knowledge or beliefs to manipulate Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So he was suggesting that because he has so much insight that he's, with these religious insights, that he's able to convince Lori Vallow to stay with him because he has religious insight. Is that correct?
Oh, so Lori was the victim here?
He was looked to as the visionary for this small group, and
The inner circle.
in that capacity, yes, used that to keep Lori Vallow in a relationship with him.
And the small group you're talking about, who did you discover was in this small group?
The inner circle is really a trio of Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, and Alex Cox.
Oh, that's the inner circle? According to who?
Anybody else?
That's what I would refer to as the inner circle. There were others that were
Others
more
unknown?
peripheral.
Come on.
Okay.
Projector.
And when you say more peripheral, shared some of the same religious views that Chad Daybell has.
Yes, I would describe them as adherents to Chad Daybell's doctrines.
How many of those do you talk about that are peripheral people that were adhering to it?
He wants some people called out.
6 to 10.
Would
You're in the clear, Flo.
would Melanie Gibb be included in that group?
Yes.
I used to have
David
a
Warwick?
fart sound.
Yes.
Zaluma Pastenes?
Yes.
Oh, these are all the inner circle. Listen up.
Melanie Boudreau?
Yes.
So this wasn't a large group of people then.
No, Chad Daybell spoke at a lot of conferences, and those were larger, but I can't speak to how his message was received by those people.
And when you say Chad Daybell spoke at these conferences, you touched on it a little before that maybe Lori Vallow wasn't believing everything that Chad was saying about this religious stuff, right?
No, I don't believe I said that. I do believe she believed
Okay.
pretty much everything that Chad Daybell said.
Okay. And maybe what you testified to is that you questioned the accuracy of it in one of the text messages that you put up on the board. Do you recall saying something about that? No?
I don't, if you can direct me to this particular message.
So Chad Daybell started writing these books well before she ever met Lori Vallow. He met Lori Vallow, correct?
Yes.
And he wrote these books about his experiences and about his theories and interpretation of what he felt was the teachings of the LDS faith, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Introduces facts, not in evidence. I believe counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Well, he wrote a lot of books about religious issues, correct?
Yes, I think most of his books had to do with kind of an end of times theme.
And he would go on these various, go to various places and speak about his books and try to sell books.
Correct.
This was sort of a way to market or to make a living by talking about various religious feelings about religion. And then he'd go on and speak to people. And then in the meantime, try to make a living or try to make money selling these books to people, right?
Yes.
And the predominant audience that he would go to, these encampments, these gatherings, these various locales, for the most part, they were centered around Utah, correct?
No, I mostly, St. George, Mesa, there was one in Boise. So the Intermountain West.
And you beat me to the punch because I was about to start with Utah, then say Arizona, then say Idaho. But, the predominant audience that these books were marketing to were people in Utah, Arizona, Idaho, correct?
That's where he spoke, yes.
And they were predominantly marketed to people of the LDS faith, right?
I think so.
And they were marketed
Baby
to the people who
Huey.
would want to go to these various seminars about preparing for the end of time, right?
Yes.
And these people weren't all members of a cult, were they?
Not to my knowledge.
And there were various audiences who would show up and listen to Chad Daybell talk and sell his books, right?
Yes.
So the fact that he has Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, Melanie Gibb, and David Warwick, who were friends of his, right?
Well, I think the relationship with Alex Cox and Lori Vallow was closer than it was different than those other names that you mentioned and closer than friendship.
Right. But let's take, and we'll talk a little bit about the Alex Cox-Lori Vallow relationship, but as far as the other were concerned, all of the emails and text messages, or excuse me, all of the text messages, that you talked about,
God
they had a
almighty.
recurring theme. These people were friends, right?
Yes.
And these friends talked about religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
And these religious beliefs may not be what everybody else believes in, but they seem to have a consistent theme, and they were all consistent in believing whatever Lori, Chad, David, and Melanie were talking about. Would that be fair?
I think that's fair.
Okay. So when you talk about a group, we're really talking about a group of friends who have some, maybe not traditional beliefs, but have religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the text I put up there from Lori to Chad, and it's the one line 836. Oh, wait, let me know when you're ready. You okay? You all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you take that as being would you take that as being in somewhat of a sarcastic tone?
No, I think Lori was pushing Chad and was serious.
Okay. So you should give all of your love and your attention to your wife and family. That's what she's saying, right?
Yes.
I'm just a distraction. Go have fun with your family. There's nothing sarcastic about that?
Well, if you look at Chad Daybell's reaction, which is that is so crushing and I feel so destroyed inside, I don't think he took it as being sarcastic.
Okay. I really do want you to. I just can't be in the way anymore. If things change, then we can talk. But we have nothing until things change. So she's basically drawing a line in the sand and saying, unless something changes, we have nothing to do with each other. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. So what she's doing is she's saying that unless something happens, either you divorce your wife or you kill your wife or your wife dies, you don't have me.
I agree.
Okay.
Jen.
And then Chad responds, I'm constantly begging for change below. You see that?
I do.
But I'm hindering your life and you deserve better. I love you so intensely. Okay. You see that?
I do.
The text following that, did any of them say, all right, I agree with you, Lori. Let's kill Tammy. You find any of those?
I found a number of texts talking about Tammy's death percentage in subsequent conversations.
Yeah. You're also aware that Chad Daybell, or maybe you're not, but are you aware that since 2016, Chad Daybell had been talking to these public audiences about the fact that Tammy was going to have a very short life?
I was aware that he made those statements to particular individuals. I'm not aware that he spoke of that publicly, but yes, I know that he communicated that Tammy was going to die to a number of people.
Right. And these other individuals are friends and family of Chad Daybell, who are also friends and family of Tammy Daybell, correct?
That I don't know. I can tell you the ones that I do know that he spoke with, and I'm not aware that they knew Tammy.
Okay. Okay. So it wasn't necessarily a secret that Chad was keeping with anybody since 2016, that he felt he had a premonition or a belief that his wife was going to have a short life, right?
There were certain people he communicated that to, correct?
Right. And when I'm reading through the text messages, and you went through your presentation, am I wrong when I'm reading these messages to read into this that Chad was waiting for Tammy to pass away, and that was what the delay was, correct?
It could be that, or it could be waiting to take action.
Okay. So we don't know what it was, right?
From the investigation, I believe I know what it was.
Okay. Well, people differ in their opinions, right?
They do?
Yeah.
Why are they just sitting there? What's going on?
And Judge, could we approach for just a minute?
Yes.
Okay, so they approach. Let's see what happens. All right, they come back. I thought maybe they'd take a break. Let's see.
Best laid plans.
They take their lunch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's a thumb drive with a file in it. It may be a thumb drive that's having a few issues because it
Oh, the
wanted to pull
thumb.
files and then it didn't. So we'll see
Chad's
if it will.
thumb.
And it's here. Judge, I got it.
Chad's
Okay,
thumb
all right,
drive
thanks.
is
Magical words, you get it.
malfunctioning.
And Judge, I'm going to try to publish off of Exhibit 7 an email from, I believe it was from the Lolly Time,
The lolly.
previously admitted Exhibit number 7.
All right, once you have that pulled up on your screen, let us know. And
Oh,
then I'll,
Judge, I'm ready.
okay, I'll instruct the clerk this time to allow that to be published then.
Okay. Now, you previously mentioned about Phoebe, was your recollection was that it was Melanie Gibb, is that correct?
Oh, fuck.
I testified that I wasn't 100% certain of that, but I don't dispute that that's
Okay. So at the top, this is a text message from Phoebe from the Lolly Time to Lori Vallow. Would you read the first line?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. I love you so much. I'm going to teach right now, teaching about discerning and shutting off dark portals.
Okay, then the one below that.
I could see the darkness so clearing last night when I was teaching last night. Their eyes were dark like marbles.
The date of those.
Oh my God. This is Phoebe, aka Melanie Gibb, who testified and lied, might I add, that she never taught anything about dark portals. But this is her writing to Lolly Time. Black like marbles? Wow.
The one below that.
I could see the darkness so clearing last night when I was teaching last night. Their eyes were dark like marbles.
Okay, now the date of those messages was when?
July 25th of 2019.
Were you aware during your investigation where Melanie Gibb was teaching on that particular occasion?
No, I'm not.
Okay. You are aware that Melanie Gibb taught classes, a variety of different things about vibrations and about light and dark, correct?
I wasn't aware that she taught classes. I know there was a podcast and group discussions and things like that.
Like she would go to encampments or she would go to programs and be a speaker talking about a variety of religious topics, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when Melanie Gibb talks about dark portals, is that something she's talking about that's consistent with the LDS faith to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. When she's talking about eyes being like dark marbles, is that also something that's consistent with being of the LDS faith?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Chad's getting darker by the moment.
To avoid, and Judge, we can bring that down now. I'm done.
He was bound and determined to get that out there that Melanie Gibb is teaching or was teaching at that time about dark portals. So who introduced who to the portal? We've got Mel Gibb, aka Phoebe. Then we have Lori Vallow, the V for Vallow, aka Elena. And who introduced who? Because Melanie was teaching about the same thing that Chad was. So Lori wasn't into the dark portals until she met these fuckers. But Lori was also unaliving before she met these fuckers. So Lori brought the unaliving aspect in with, hey, I got my hitman Alex. And then they brought in the dark portals and they worked in their reasonings together in the inner circle.
But during your research, there were other individuals that talked about putting numeric numbers on people with dark and light, right?
There was one single instance in all of my review where Lori Vallow disputed a designation made by Chad Daybell. So that's the only other time I'm aware of anyone else putting those numbers on individuals.
Okay. And all I want to do is just have you confirm then for me. In the review of all of those 10,000 plus text messages, are you telling me that other than Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, they were the only ones who talked about dark and light and put a numeric number on someone?
I am testifying that the only times I saw those numbers being generated, with the exception of one occasion, were all by Chad Daybell.
Okay. Okay. And all of the people that were designated, well, so other than Chad Daybell, your testimony then is that nobody else put numeric numbers on people as it related to dark and light. Is that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. You brought up a subject about the process of sealing. Remember that in the very beginning of your
Sealing
testimony?
equals getting
It's
married.
part of the James and Elena story, correct?
Right. But you also explained that what sealing is in your definition, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I understood sealing to be part of a marriage process when two couples of the LDS faith go into a temple and they perform a private ceremony. Is that what you understand it to be as well?
Yes, when two people go to get married, correct.
Right. And that is a process in which, and I don't want to go into, we don't need to go into significant detail about this, but it's a religious symbolism to show that they have an intent of wanting to be together the rest of their life, right?
Correct.
And they're basically sealing themselves to each other in essence, right?
Correct.
Okay. Has nothing to do with death or anything like that. It has everything to do with the celebration of the marriage ceremony, correct?
It's a marriage ordinance that's performed in LDS temples.
Okay, all right. Okay. And Judge, I'm going to stop there.
I'll find it and give
That's
you
all I have
guys
this
the
morning.
link.
All right, that will conclude cross-examination of the witness. Redirect from the state.
Hang on, I gotta let my cat. Hang on, I gotta do something, guys. I gotta mute. Where is my mic?
Agent Hart, you were just asked about the sealing reference in one of those messages. Do you recall testifying about that before?
I do.
My cat was
And you were asked
meowing to come in.
specifically about it dealing with a marriage ceremony by Mr. Pryor, correct?
Yes.
And previously, did you testify that there are also sealings done for people that have passed away?
correct.
Ceilings.
And when you referenced the James and Elena story, was that your understanding of what was being referenced at that time?
Judge, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Was that your understanding of what
What
was
is
being
it, a
referenced in the James and
lizard?
Elena story?
Yes, the sealings being referred to in the James and Elena story are
Shut the door,
what they call
please.
proxy, meaning that genealogical research is done and that a man and a woman go in and
Come here, Mama.
based on historical records, if two people had been married, they then perform that marriage ceremony in their behalf. That the two people performing the ceremony aren't getting married. They're a stand-in for people based on genealogical research who are being sealed.
And at the time that was done, that was in the November
I found it.
2018.
Here it
November
is.
16th of 2018.
And at that time, was Charles Vallow still alive?
No, he was not. Or excuse me. Yes, he was. I'm sorry. I was thinking of 2019.
2019. So in November of 2018, Charles Vallow was still alive.
He was.
And in November of 2018, was Tammy Daybell still alive?
She was.
And is part of the idea behind the sealing that you would be married for eternity?
Judge, leading question.
Sustained.
When we looked at those messages, if you recall, was the indication that Chad believed or was indicating he and Lori would be married eternally?
That's precisely what was stated in Chad's writing.
Let me look at the date on that interview.
Through your
It's
investigation, were you able to determine where the teachings of light and dark originated as far as this particular group of individuals you were asked about?
They originated from Chad Daybell.
May 27th of 21.
And you indicated Melanie Gibb was one of the individuals that would have received those teachings?
I believe so, yes.
3 years ago.
And you were asked some questions about levels and light and dark, and specifically in reference to Allie Bloomer. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Who is
Was Allie Bloomer a
Bloomer?
telestial relative of Chad or Lori?
Not to my knowledge.
And we talked a little bit about that telestial relative, the meaning of that, and Mr. Pryor put that slide back up. You'd referenced that it is the lowest kingdom. Would that also be, would telestial refer here on earth?
Yes.
So the reference was the telestial relatives were obstacles.
Correct.
Through your investigation, did you learn if Charles was ever deemed dark?
Charles Vallow?
Charles Vallow.
He was.
Did you ever learn whether Tylee Ryan was deemed dark?
She was.
Did you ever learn whether JJ Vallow was deemed dark?
He was deemed to have turned into a zombie, which
Judge, unresponsive.
Overruled.
is parallel to being dark, being inhibited by a dark entity.
And what about Tammy Daybell? Did you ever learn whether she was deemed dark?
Again, she was deemed to have been inhibited by a dark entity.
And based on your investigation and looking through
Inhibited?
these messages, who was the one that would determine if someone was light or dark?
Chad Daybell.
And of those 4 relatives that we talked about, are you aware of their current status?
All 4 are dead.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. I don't think we got outside the scope of cross there or direct, so won't permit recross for this witness. That will conclude the testimony of Agent Hart. Is he going to be recalled potentially by either side?
He is going to be recalled by the state, Your Honor.
And he's going to be called by the defense as well, Judge.
Okay, he's going to be called back to the stand. That was an FBI agent. So now we're going to we're going to go through lunch. Chad's feeding his chin. I heard too through the grapevine that they do actually feed his chin a separate lunch. Just FYI. All right, back to direct. And this is direct on FBI agent, right?
How many siblings do you have?
4.
Can
Wait,
you,
who is
tell us
this?
their names?
Cole.
This is Colby? Who the fuck is this?
623 State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. We just completed the lunch recess and the state continues with its case in chief.
This is Colby.
Statement, call its next witness.
Colby.
The state calls Colby Ryan.
Oh, Colby's on the stand, y'all. I didn't know he was testifying. Colby Ryan, guys.
Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Poor kid. All right, we're going to hang on. I got to pause this.
All right, now
because we want to see Colby. So let me rearrange. I don't want to see Rob Wood's dorky ass. We want to see Colby. Poor Colby, my goodness. The hell this guy has been through. And look at Chad. He has the audacity to even look at Colby. Fuck you, Chad. He should not even have the audacity to look at Colby Ryan. How dare he? Disrespectful chud. He should be apologizing to poor Colby. Oh, can you imagine how Colby feels? This is Lori's son. Can you imagine how Colby feels looking at this motherfucker who dismembered, burned, God knows did what to his sister Tylee and his brother JJ? All right, here we go. This is Tylee. This is Colby on direct exam.
that the witness has been sworn, I'll just inquire, Mr. Ryan, these trial proceedings have been streamed live on the court's YouTube channel and open for public access. Have you reviewed or watched any of this testimony that's taken place?
No.
Oh, and actually,
I was just going to note, Your Honor, Mr. Ryan is not subject to the exclusionary warrant.
I appreciate you pointing
Because
that
he's
out,
a victim.
Mr. Wood. That's correct.
He can watch it if he
as a
wants.
Statutorily definite with the definition here, he would not be subject to that. So disregard my inquiry.
That's right.
Mr. Wood, you can go ahead and proceed.
And before I do, Your Honor, may I be handed States Exhibits 6 and 4?
Yes.
I feel bad for him. He's a product of his environment. I can't blame a child for being raised by whack jobs. He had no chance in the world. He was raised by a fucking crook.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Who
Ryan.
taught him to crook.
Afternoon.
Can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Colby Ryan, Ryan.
Mr. Ryan, who is your mother?
Lori Vallow.
How many siblings do you have?
4.
Okay. Can you tell us their names?
Cole, Zach, Tylee, and JJ.
And Cole and Zach, what is your specific relationship or relation to them?
They're my stepbrothers.
Who was their father?
Charles Vallow.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes, that's an admitted exhibit, correct?
Yes, this is States Exhibit 6.
Okay. Yes, you may.
Now let's be kind to Colby.
Mr. Ryan, do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
Who is that?
His sister.
That's my sister, Tylee.
What is your specific relation to Tylee?
She's my half sister on my mom's side.
So you share a mother.
Mhm.
Your Honor, may I publish State's Exhibit 4?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan, do you recognize that individual?
Hey, Justice Jane.
Yes.
And if you need a drink of water, I don't know if there's tissues up there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Who is that?
That is my brother, JJ.
And what is your specific relation to JJ?
He is my adopted brother.
Do you recall when JJ was adopted?
Yes.
Do you know who Charles Vallow was?
Yes.
Who was he?
He was my stepfather.
And when you say stepfather, how was he your stepfather?
He married my mom.
How long was he married to your mom?
Over 10 years.
All right. And what was your relationship like with Mr. Vallow?
He was my dad. It was good.
So fair to say you were close with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall when Mr. Vallow passed away?
Yes.
Or Charles Vallow? If I say Charles, we understand who we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Do you recall when he passed away?
Yes.
When was that?
July 11th, 2019.
How did you hear about him passing away?
My mom called me and told me that he had had a heart attack.
And do you remember about what time of day that was?
Between like 1 and 3 o'clock, something in the afternoon.
In the afternoon?
Mhm.
Did you have any reason to not believe her that that's how he passed away?
No.
Did you have any occasion to go over and to your mother's house that day?
Yes.
And where was that house located?
In Gilbert, Arizona.
Do you know approximately what time you went over?
I got off at work at 7, so around 7:30, 7:45.
What happened? What was the first thing you saw when you got there?
Tylee opened the door and hugged me, and she was crying. And then I saw my Uncle Alex sitting on the couch with a bandage around his head. And then I saw my mom in the backyard, and that was it.
Did you go into the house?
Yes.
Did you?
Wow, I didn't know that Colby went over there after Charles was unalived. I never realized that.
See your brother JJ there?
No.
Did you speak with Alex Cox at all that night?
Yes.
How did that conversation go? What did he say to you?
Objection, hearsay.
Statement of a co-conspirator, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Tell us about the conversation with Alex Cox. Well, and before we do that, what was your relation to Alex Cox?
He was my uncle.
And you testified you saw him with something white wrapped around his head?
Yes.
Did you speak to him at all that night?
I asked him what was on his head, and he said that Charles had hit him in the head with a bat and that he had shot him in self-defense.
And is that how you learned how your stepdad died?
Yes.
So fucked
Did
up.
he tell you anything else about that altercation?
No.
And did you ever have any other occasion to speak to him about that altercation?
No.
You said you saw your mother that night, and what was her demeanor?
Calm. Unrattled.
Unrattled.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was crazy. So I was freaking out, and she seemed to not care.
And did you speak to your mother that night about how Charles had actually died?
Yes.
How did that conversation go?
She told me there was a fight and ran through it very quickly. And it was just in shock. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she just basically gave me a very quick version of the story.
Did she tell you why she had lied to you earlier?
No.
Do you remember if you asked her?
I don't remember.
Did you ever speak with Lori Vallow about Charles Vallow's life insurance policy?
Yes.
When was, do you know if that happened multiple times?
I know she'd mentioned it growing up. She talked to us about what would happen if either one of them, something happened to them, what would happen. I think it was a few weeks later that she brought up that she was not going to receive any of the money from Charles.
Let's just take a quick step back. When you say a few weeks later, what do you mean a few weeks later?
After Charles was murdered.
Okay. And she told you then that she was not going to receive that money?
Yes.
From that conversation, was it your understanding that she had been expecting to receive that money?
Yes.
And okay.
Come on, get
when
to
Charles was alive, did you ever have occasion to speak with Lori Vallow about her and Charles's finances?
Yes.
Was that something that came up often?
Yes.
About how often, to the best of your recollection?
I would say maybe monthly, once a month.
And what was the general nature of those conversations?
From what I understood, Charles would work and then receive a bigger amount of money, and then it would kind of run out, and then they'd make another bigger amount, and then it would run out. So it's kind of the nature of the conversation would be that they were running low on money, something to that degree.
Okay. And was that a common theme then?
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, the common theme that they were running out of money?
Yes.
Do you know who Tylee Ryan's father was?
Yes.
Who was that?
Joseph Ryan.
Totally living outside their means.
I know that you and Joseph Ryan have the same last name.
So they were, did I hear this correctly? That Lori and Charles Vallow were running low on money? Let me know in chat if you know that. If you know if Charles and Lori were running out of money. You're welcome, Justice Jane. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Is he your biological father?
No.
But did you take his last name?
Yes.
And do you know if Mr. Ryan is alive or deceased?
He's deceased.
And do you recall when that happened?
Summer of 2018, I think. Something around that time.
You don't remember the exact date?
No.
And were you aware if Tylee Ryan received Social Security benefits after Joe Ryan passed away?
Yes.
How did you learn that?
My mom told me that she would be receiving benefits.
And do you know if she received that monthly?
Yes.
Did you ever receive money from Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
How would that usually happen?
Venmo. She would Venmo me.
Would you ever ask her for some money?
I did, yes.
And about how often would that happen?
Maybe I can recall asking Tylee specifically a couple times. I would mostly ask my mom, and Tylee would be the middleman between those transactions. So
he probably shouldn't.
She would tell Tylee to send the money.
He probably shouldn't have been asking her for money. But
speaking of that, to your knowledge, did Lori Vallow ever send you money by sending it to Tylee, who would then Venmo it to you?
Yes.
And how did you know that?
I would ask my mom, and then she said, "Okay, Tylee will send it over to you."
Do you recall the last time you saw Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
When was that?
It's August 30th.
And where was that?
It was outside of my work, in the parking lot.
Is that in Arizona?
It was in Mesa, Arizona, outside of a gym.
And what was the nature of that visit?
My mom was very vague and said that they were leaving. She brought Tylee and JJ, and Tylee was crying and didn't say anything really. And I hugged JJ, and my mom said that they'd be back in a few weeks to visit.
Did she tell you where she was going?
No.
Do you recall if you asked?
I did ask initially.
But she wouldn't tell you?
No.
Did you receive or did you exchange text messages with Tylee Ryan on September 8th of 2019?
Yes.
What was the nature of that text exchange?
I think I had asked her to send money. And I think we had talked earlier that day a little bit. I didn't talk to her directly, but I had heard her voice and they said that they were on a trip. And I think I'd asked her for money. I think that's what it was.
Okay. And did she respond? Do you recall?
Yes.
What did she respond?
I don't remember what she said exactly. I remember her last text that she said, which is, I love you and I love the girls.
And you said you heard her voice earlier that day. How did you hear her voice?
She was in the background of my conversation with my mom.
Right. And did your mom tell you where they were?
She said they're at Yellowstone Park.
Okay. Did you ever have a conversation with Lori Vallow after Charles's death about Tylee's Social Security money?
Yes.
What was the nature of that conversation?
So if I recall, she said that Tylee's money was not going to be everybody's money since she.
Judge, can I have some foundation as to what time, date, place this this discussion took place.
So foundation objection, Mr. Wood?
Your Honor, I'll ask a few more questions.
Thank you.
Do you recall approximately when that conversation took place?
I don't.
Okay. Was it in person?
I don't recall. I think it was on the phone, maybe.
But it was after Charles's death.
Yes.
And just to be clear, you don't recall the exact date.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. What was the nature of that conversation about Tylee's money?
Judge again, foundation.
Overruled.
Hey,
You can
Bushi.
answer the question.
Yeah. The initial question I had is, how are you going to take care of Tylee and JJ now? And I knew that she wasn't going to be receiving the money. So she said, we're going to supplement some Tylee's money for now. And I'm going to go work. That was what she said. And that was basically the nature. But she said, we're going to start using Tylee's money to make it through. And I think that I don't know if they were receiving anything for JJ, but that was the nature of the conversation.
Okay. So you don't recall if she mentioned JJ receiving Social Security?
I don't remember, but I know about it. I just don't remember if she said that.
Okay. And do you recall if she said anything about her receiving Social Security benefits after Charles died?
No.
Okay. The last time you saw Tylee, was that also the last time you saw JJ? And I think you said that was September or August 30th of 2019?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about November 27th, 2019. Were you contacted by the Gilbert police on November 27th of 2019?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that contact?
They came to our door looking for Tylee and I think JJ as well. I specifically remember them asking about Tylee first.
Okay. And what did you tell them?
I said I didn't know where they were.
Do you recall if you told them about the last time you had seen them?
I think so.
At that time, had you been concerned about Tylee?
Yes.
Why is that?
Our conversations were not normal. The way her dialect in her text, the way she spoke wasn't matching up. And
It wasn't her.
I texted her for her birthday and just things of that nature. Just wasn't getting calls, wasn't getting any contact in a normal way and was always avoided. So I thought maybe she was upset with me, but I just didn't want to pressure her because I know she'd been through a lot.
And so you mentioned text messages. Was there a change in those messages?
Yes.
How so?
Just little things like if you capitalize the letter I in periods and emojis, just things like that. Things just didn't sound right. And it just felt off when I was receiving those texts.
Do you recall the last time you spoke with her on the phone?
The last time I directly spoke with Tylee was on the 30th with JJ on FaceTime. So the same day that I saw them.
So you FaceTimed with them later that day?
Yes.
And then you never spoke with her again on the phone? But going back to those text messages, did you keep receiving text messages throughout September of 2019?
Yes.
And are those the messages that you felt were different?
Yes.
Okay. Did you respond to those messages?
Yes.
After the beginning of September, did you continue to receive money from Tylee's Venmo?
I think so.
Do you recall how often?
I think maybe a couple more times. So maybe 2 or 3.
And did you receive any more money from Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And how would she send that?
So she started sending money after I had not heard from her since that day. She started sending money on Cash App. I think she made a separate account and just tried to send money and it kept denying it because it was a new account. I think it was all through Cash App at that point at just random times.
Okay. And was it in response to you asking for money or was it just sent? Do you recall?
It was just sent.
Yeah. After Charles Vallow died, did you ever speak with your mom about her getting married again?
Yes.
And do you remember when that conversation was?
Maybe a few weeks after.
After he passed away?
After he was gone, yes.
What did she tell you about that?
It wasn't really a conversation. She just said a one-off thing like, I'll be married again soon. And I disregarded her and told her that I think that's crazy, or maybe she's talking about in the next life. It wasn't a real conversation. It was just a comment she made, and I completely dismissed what she said.
So she didn't give you any details about who she was marrying?
No.
When she was getting married?
No.
Other than soon?
Just soon, yeah.
Okay. Did your mom ever mention the name Chad Daybell to you?
I don't think so. No. I know she was becoming spiritual, if you want to call it that, for a long time, but she doesn't. I only knew Melanie. I didn't know anybody else that she was spending a ton of time with.
And when you say Melanie, which Melanie?
Melanie Gibb.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you contact your mother after November 27th when you were contacted by the Gilbert police?
I immediately contacted her after they left.
And what did you say to her?
I asked her what is going on. Why are the cops asking where Tylee and JJ are? And she asked me, like, what did they ask? And I said, they asked for Tylee and JJ. And I said, what's going on? And she just proceeded to say, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about anything. And she's like, that's it. Like, I got it.
At that point, did you know where your mother was?
No.
So she had never told you where she was?
No. We speculated based off of the Yellowstone thing, but I didn't have an idea where she actually was.
And so you didn't know she was in Rexburg, Idaho?
No.
And she never told you that?
No.
Did you try to contact your mother on Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Did she respond to you?
No.
Did you ever have contact after that with your mother before she was arrested?
I think she sent an email not too long, maybe within a couple of weeks. And the nature of the email was, everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about me. I've got Jesus on my side, blah, blah, blah. But basically just saying, it's okay. I've got things handled.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
All right, here we go. Cross on Colby. He better go gentle, but we never know with Pryor. What do you guys think? Do you think Pryor's going to go hard on Colby? Let's do a poll.
Good afternoon. Can you tell me how old you are?
28.
Yeah. You mentioned a number of times that you were receiving money from Tylee and Lori. Is that right?
Mm.
And 2018, 2019.
Yes.
Sound about right?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Financially, is there a reason why they were sending you money?
We were just a young family and I just needed help and I was asking my mom for help.
You were a young family with children of your own?
Yes.
Okay. And just difficulty supporting yourself?
Yeah.
So your sister Tylee was helping out?
Sometimes, yeah.
And that was consistent with her character, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Very caring person.
Very.
Very kind person.
Yep.
She was, in many ways, more of a mother figure to JJ than Lori was. Would you agree with that?
I think she was his big sister.
Right. Very caring of JJ. Very, very protective of JJ. Would you agree with that?
She loved him. Yeah.
And she understood him better than almost anybody, correct?
Sure.
He had tremendous challenges as a young autistic, 7-year-old autistic child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of all your siblings, you would probably say that Tylee was probably the kindest, the gentlest, and the most understanding of JJ. Would that be fair?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you mentioned that Lori called you to let you know that Charles had died.
Yes.
She didn't tell you that Alex gunned her down in the house, right?
No.
She lied to you.
Yes.
Said it was a heart attack.
Yes.
So you're Lori's son, natural son, right?
Yes.
So Lori Vallow lied to her son the first time saying that Charles died of a heart attack, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of lying in a lot of places.
And Lori lied a lot to you, right?
Other people too. Yeah.
But Lori lied a lot to you.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
And then you mentioned the name Melanie Gibb.
Mm-hmm.
Was Melanie Gibb in on this lying to you as well about covering things up?
I didn't speak to Melanie Gibb.
Okay.
Pryor
But Lori
hates
and
Melanie
Lori and
Gibb.
Melanie were the best of friends, right?
You could say that.
Yeah. And Lori met Melanie because Melanie was teaching classes about religion and about various religious topics, and Lori gained an interest in that, and that's how that friendship started, correct?
I'm not exactly sure. She was at our Christmas party one time, and then she was there as her friend, so I didn't know what their exact connection was.
When was that Christmas party?
2018.
Okay. And the two of them were together, and it was abundantly clear that the two of them were very, very close friends, right?
Sure.
Okay. At the time that your mother notified you, you were at work, is that right?
Yes.
So did you get that message while you were actually working, or was it over a break, or how did that transpire?
So I was in the middle of my workday, and she called me, and then I went over there after work.
And where were you working at that time?
At Anytime Fitness.
Okay. And so you took a break. Do you need to take a break?
No, you're good.
Okay. You took a break, and your mother called you or texted you and said there was a heart attack.
Yes.
No mention of self-defense.
No.
No mention that Alex shot Charles in self-defense, right?
No.
She was clearly lying to her son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the fight that occurred between Charles and Alex, Tylee was there, and she was implicated in that, correct?
Yes.
And she was present for that fight and that entire altercation, from what you understand, correct?
Objection. States facts, not in evidence.
Overruled. Correct?
From what I understand, yes.
Would.
Okay.
Objection.
Now, you mentioned that your father isn't Joseph Ryan, correct?
No.
But are you aware that your mother in 2018 received a sizable life insurance policy from Joseph Ryan?
I am now, yes.
You are now, like right now?
I mean, I heard that later on, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're aware that financially, Lori Vallow had a significant amount of money as of middle or late of 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay. During this time that there was discussion with Charles about financing, was it Charles Vallow who was the primary financer of the family's expenses?
Yes.
Your mother chose not to work?
She worked, I think, in the beginning, and then I think he just took over. I'm not sure. I was a child.
Okay, so when there was financial issues, it was your mother putting this all on Charles to provide for the family. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And you already previously mentioned that you'd communicate with Tylee at least like once a month. Is that fair, or was it more frequently than that?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
You communicated with Tylee at least once a month. Was that fair?
Growing up, or
Well, in the last couple of years.
oh yeah,
Okay, and the manner that you would communicate was by text message.
primarily.
Okay. And how often with JJ would you communicate with JJ?
I mean, it really depends. Tylee and I would see them more often, so I didn't have much time for them not being around.
Okay.
So before that, it wasn't once a month. It was a lot more frequent. They
Right.
lived in the same place, and I would go see them.
Okay. And when you communicated with Tylee, or excuse me, when you communicated with JJ, it was always Tylee there, right? Usually?
Yeah.
Not Lori.
She would be there too.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you saw Tylee on August 30th in Mesa, Arizona. That was the last time you saw them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned that Tylee was obviously upset.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any prior information that Tylee just did not want to go to Idaho?
No, because I didn't know she was going to Idaho.
Okay. So she was obviously upset about something.
Yeah.
And it was the day that they were packing up to leave to go to Idaho. Is that right?
Yes.
And prior to that time, there was no indication that Tylee was upset about anything else. Is that right?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay, that's fair. Do you remember that? And from August 30th, you then had a FaceTime call with both Tylee and JJ later that afternoon, later that evening.
Mhm.
Do you know about what time that was?
Probably when I got home, so anywhere between 7 to 8 p.m.
Okay. And you don't know where they were at that point, though, right?
They were back at the house.
In Gilbert?
Yes.
Okay. They hadn't left, but they were preparing to leave.
They were leaving in the morning, from what I understood.
Was Tylee still upset about the fact that she was leaving for Idaho?
Not on the phone call, no.
Okay. Now on the back in late November, you had then had an occasion to talk with your mother. Is that right? After the Gilbert police spoke with you?
Yes.
And again, your mother lied to you again.
Hi, Sherry.
Was Melanie Gibb there
Melanie.
Where?
on the phone? Any indication that Melanie Gibb was there listening in on the phone call?
No.
You don't know whether she was or not, or you just don't know?
I have no idea if she was there.
Okay. Now, your mother's a strong personality, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
She's not someone that people can tell her what to do. Would you agree with that?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So you think she could be influenced very easily, right?
That's a big gap between not influential and influential.
Okay. But you would agree that your mother is one to speak her opinion when she has an opinion about a subject, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to ever interact or observe the way your mother talks to her friends? Let's say Melanie Gibb, how she interacts with someone like Melanie Gibb?
Yes.
And that sort of interaction between them, your mother was a wallflower, or did she tend to speak her opinion when she spoke with her good friend Melanie Gibb?
Can you define wildflower?
Wallflower, someone very passive, who wouldn't argue, someone who would just accept the way things.
Wait. We got to listen to that. Hang on. A wallflower. He's such a goon.
Now, your mother's a strong personality, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
She's not someone that people can tell her what to do. Would you agree with that?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So you think she could be influenced very easily, right?
That's a big gap between not influential and influential.
Okay. But you would agree that your mother is one to speak her opinion when she has an opinion about a subject, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to ever interact or observe the way your mother talks to her friends? Let's say Melanie Gibb, how she interacts with someone like Melanie Gibb?
Yes.
And that sort of interaction between them, your mother was a wallflower, or did she tend to speak her opinion when she spoke with her good friend Melanie Gibb?
Can you define wildflower?
Wallflower, someone very passive, who wouldn't argue, someone who would just accept the way things are.
She did not like confrontation.
Okay.
She avoided it. So take that for what it is. I don't know.
Okay. So if getting in a discussion with Melanie Gibb, she would avoid confrontation. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Did she ever tell you in late November, after the police called you, that JJ and Tylee were with Melanie Gibb?
No.
Hmm.
Yeah, Judge, I think that's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, that was
All right, thank
easy.
you, Ms. Pryor. Can we redirect?
Of course they
Just
do.
briefly.
Go ahead.
Of course, Rob would. Kobe.
You were just asked about
Kobe.
kind of your mother's personality.
Mm-hmm.
whether she was a wallflower. And you said
Y'all?
you believed your mom had a strong personality. But that she,
I'm going to object. I don't recall that testimony.
Overruled.
but you said you thought your mom could be influenced.
Yes.
Earlier, you testified that your mom had become more religious over the years. And you were asked if she could be influenced.
Yes.
Do you believe your mother was influenced by Chad Daybell?
Objection, Judge.
Grounds.
Grounds.
It's speculation. There's no foundation to base what he's basing this on.
It's a question of belief. It's overruled.
Oh, answer it.
100%. I think she could be influenced. Yes.
Okay, and my question was, do you believe she was influenced by Chad Daybell?
Judge, again, I'm going to object. Foundation, speculation.
Overruled.
Oh, answer it.
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Boom.
All right. On that very last point, if you'd like, Mr. Pryor, recross. If not, we'll be concluded with the witness. And just limited to that last line of questioning you objected on, I'll allow recross.
Your Honor, I would just note, I think that question was directly in line with his cross.
Understood. I'll allow the recross.
Oh.
Judge, am I permitted to go forward?
Yes, but only on that last question or two.
Now, in August of 2018, or August of 2000, excuse me.
Come on, Pryor.
August of 2019, you had never heard of Chad Daybell, is that right?
Correct.
And you testified previously that your mother said, and please let me get to the quote. And it was a few weeks after Charles passed away, and Charles passed away in July of 2019, right? You said, I will be married again soon, but she didn't specify who she was talking about, right?
Correct.
And at that point in July of 2019, you didn't know very much about Chad Daybell either, did you?
No.
Had never even heard the name, right?
No.
And then in August, almost September of 2019, correct?
Yeah.
You had never heard of Chad Daybell. You didn't even know where or why they were going to Idaho, did you?
No.
And then we fast forward to November, 2 months later, within 60 days, you have a conversation with your mother about where's JJ, correct? And at that point, you'd never heard or mentioned the name Chad Daybell. Is that right?
Correct.
And then subsequent to that, you mentioned the fact that your mother, there was a call and a communication where your mother had been locked up. And at that point, you had a confrontation call with her. And at that point, you never heard about Chad Daybell, correct?
No, in December of 2019, there was a release, and that's how we found out that she was married.
Okay.
And that she was.
He's staring at
The
him.
kids were missing, and that's how we found out.
Okay. So after December of 2019, after everything started processing, that's when you drew this conclusion that Chad Daybell must be influencing her. It wasn't anything up until December of 2019. Is that fair?
I mean, they ran away together. So
Well, I understand that. But
Yeah.
prior to December of 2019, to your knowledge, Chad Daybell wasn't even in the picture. Is that right?
correct.
Yeah, I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right. All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of this witness. Is the witness going to be recalled at any point, Mr. Wood?
Release him.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Oh, now they got to approach? Release the poor guy. Let's see what they end up doing. Make him sit there with Chad. That is so rude. They couldn't figure this shit out before they put him up there and made him sit there all uncomfortable. What a bunch of losers.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony of Mr. Ryan then. Mr. Ryan, you potentially may be recalled at some point in this case. If so, you'll be contacted either by the state or the defense. Otherwise, you are permitted to step down, and that concludes your testimony for today.
He's not released. All right, let's see who the next witness is going to be.
Any further witness to call this afternoon? Well, I should say we've still got time. So who will the state be calling next, assuming we've got one?
Your Honor, the state will be calling David Warwick.
Oh,
Very
warlocks. Oh, Chad's getting out his notebook, his handy dandy notebook. This is Mel Gibb's husband. But Pryor is going to love being able to call him the boyfriend. In comes David Warwick. Oh, this is going to be good when Pryor takes a hold of him. This guy's a piece of work, just like Melanie. He acts like Mr. Goody Two-Shoes.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, let me just inquire, Mr. Warwick, have you viewed or listened in on any of the testimony that's taken place?
He looked like he was on pills last time in Lori's
discussed
trial.
your testimony with anyone else?
No.
Very well. Mr. Wixom, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Warwick, will you please state your full name for the record and spell it? David Dale Warwick. Will you spell it for the reporter, please? Oh, spell it.
God, he's an idiot.
DAVIDDALEWAR.
This guy is dumb.
Thank you. And Mr. Warwick, where do you live?
Pleasant Grove, Utah.
What do you do for a living?
A general contractor.
I'm going to ask you some questions, drawing your attention back to roughly 5 years ago. Are you familiar with the name Chad Daybell?
Yes.
How are you familiar with his name?
I know I need
think
a new
since
Coke.
2012, if I recall.
When did you first become familiar, or how did you first become familiar with his name?
There was a book that he had done for done a book with Julie Rowe.
Julie
Rowe! I just knew that he was the author or publisher of that.
At any point in time, did you have any contact with Mr. Daybell?
At that time?
At any point in time?
Yes.
When did you first have contact with him?
He reached out to me to wanting to do a book.
He's my hero.
Do you recall approximately when that occurred?
2015 is what I'm thinking that was.
How did he reach out to you?
He's communicated. He's called me, he's texted me, and emailed me. And I just can't remember which one was first.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever initiated any of that contact?
No.
He did, Chris.
What was your reaction to his request that you write a book?
I just said I needed to think about it, and because of the content, I needed approval from above.
Oh, above.
So did you decide
I
to
needed
write a book for him?
approval from
No.
above.
After
Let's
that
get
initial
Pryor in
contact,
this.
however it came, did he continue to reach out to you to request this?
Yes.
How often did he reach out to you?
Probably 3 or 4 times over a year.
How did he do that?
Text and email mainly. I think we only had 1 phone call.
What was your reaction to those continued requests?
I just said no.
Just
At any
say
point in
no,
time,
Warlock.
did you ever have any personal contact?
Just
with Mr.
say
Daybell?
no.
Yes.
When do you recall that first happening?
The first time was at a meeting in Rigby, Idaho.
And tell the jury about this meeting. What was the meeting?
It's they were having a meeting about priesthood power and dealing with the darkness of this world and evil.
Fuck you.
Who was having the meeting?
John Miller.
John
And approximately when did this meeting occur?
If I remember right, it was fall of 2015.
Who's John Miller?
And why did you have occasion to attend that meeting?
Because John Miller reached out to me.
Did you
ask me to come?
Did you know Mr. Miller before this?
I did not.
Did you have any understanding why Mr. Miller had reached out to you?
Yes, I had done a few firesides. And
He did a few firesides.
People got to know me through others that way. And so he reached out to me thinking that I would be interested in this.
I think you indicated that this meeting occurred in Rigby, Idaho.
What?
Yes. And where in Rigby was this meeting?
Firesides with Warlock? He did. I did a few firesides. These people still take this seriously, guys. That's what's scary. I mean, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous, but this man takes it seriously. Listen to him talk. He's as serious as cancer. They still believe this garbage. They're still saying that people are super dark. It could be you.
Meeting.
Where? It was at his home.
Do you recall who all was in attendance at the meeting?
Not everybody. Most of the people I didn't know.
Who do you recall who was at the meeting?
John Miller.
John
Miller. Larry Hilton, Tom Harrison, Bob Walker.
Bob Walker.
Hector Sosa. Now, some of these guys I met because we carpooled up. So that's why I remember their names. And the others that were there, that's where I met Chad.
When you were at this meeting, did you have any occasion to have a conversation with Chad?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what was the conversation about and how did that come to be?
He just came up and said that he was going to go to his house and he wanted me to come over. He said Julie Rowe and a few of her associates were coming, and they actually showed up at this meeting too. And anyway, I said, I'm not here. I'm here for this meeting. And I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay because I was asked to be at this meeting by the host. So
what was Chad specifically asking of you?
He just asked me to come with him.
And did you eventually do that?
Yeah. So he went and talked to John Miller, and they were having a lunch break.
John Miller.
And John said, yeah, go ahead and go. It'll be okay. Just, we can just resume when you get back.
John gave them permission.
No, I didn't. But there was some curiosity to what's going on. So, but I just went out of respect.
Shut up.
And where did you go?
We went to Chad's home.
Where was his home located?
In Vicksburg.
What did you do at his home?
We walked around his property.
We casted spells.
And this is the first time I had met Julie Rowe also. And basically she was helped telling him how the property was to be laid out and organized for tents to be set up and a building to be built for preparations.
Why did Julie Rowe explain this information? What was her basis of understanding?
My understanding is she had a vision, or she was having visions. I wasn't informed on the details of what was going on. It was more of a meet and get acquainted.
Did you recall meeting anybody else at that meeting besides Ms. Rowe? Let me withdraw that and be clear. While at Chad's property, do you recall meeting anybody else besides being there with Chad and Ms. Rowe?
Yeah, there were several other men there, but I don't recall their names.
Other
Did you ever have
men?
occasion to meet Chad's wife?
Yes.
And who was that you met?
Tammy.
When did you meet Tammy?
When we were in their living room, Chad had her come out and introduced us to his wife.
Was that at the same meeting that you were there with Julie Rowe that Chad had brought you to?
Yes.
Did Tammy participate in the conversation or walking around the property?
No, she didn't.
Any understanding why she did not do that?
I just didn't feel like she was interested, but that was just my feelings.
How did that meeting eventually end?
When we got done walking around the property, we just left and went back to John Miller's.
Did you have any other interaction with Chad at that point, at that meeting?
No.
Do you recall any other occasions that you met Chad personally after that meeting?
Yes.
When's the next time that you recall having met with him personally?
There was a conference in Brigham City, Utah that I was asked to speak at, and Chad was there.
To the best you can recall, approximately when was that conference?
2017 is my guess. That's the best that'd be my guess. I don't remember exactly.
But it was after your meeting at John Miller's house?
Yes.
What was your interaction with Chad at that conference?
They can't even blame this stuff on COVID.
I saw him over there at his booth when we had a break, and I went and just talked with him for a few minutes.
Anything of note in the conversation?
No.
Did you have any impressions at that point of Chad's just general nature and his demeanor?
No, he's just, Chad's always been very, very kind, very meek.
Anything else about the way he conducted himself or interacted with people at that point in time?
No.
When's the next time that you recall seeing Chad in person?
At Lori Vallow's house in Chandler, Arizona.
And when did that happen?
August of 2019.
What was your occasion for being at that meeting?
Lori, I was with Melanie, and we were doing a couple firesides in Arizona, and Lori called when we were coming back down from the northern Arizona and said, "Hey, we got some friends here. We'd like you." They wanted her to bring me over to meet me. So they said they were just having like a luncheon. She had prepared food and just asked us to come and stop by.
Mm-hmm.
When you say Melanie, are we speaking of your spouse?
Yes.
And who is your wife, just to clarify for the jury?
Who's what?
Who is your wife? What's Melanie?
Yeah.
What was Melanie's last name at the time?
Oh, sorry, Gibb. Sorry.
And you're still married?
Yes.
They don't even live together.
Who do you recall being at that luncheon or that meeting at Lori's house?
Chad, Lori, Melanie Boudreaux, I think was her name. Alex Cox, Zalima, and then there was a lady there named Julie.
Is it the same Julie Rowe?
No.
During that meeting, was there any conversation that occurred?
Yeah, it was sitting around a table and eating food, and conversation was happening while we were eating.
Anything else? What was the general subject of the conversation while you were at the meeting?
But they were talking about the 144,000 and about the gathering of the 144,000. Yeah.
I'm going to pause you there for the jury's sake. When you say they were talking about it, Who was talking about the 144,000?
Chad and Lori, but they were all talking about it. It was not really a formal meeting. It was kind of a lot of conversation. And I was just picking up on what they were talking about.
To the best you can recall, what things do you remember Chad or Lori saying about the 144,000?
That they were responsible to gather them. That was their call.
Now, were these things that just one of them was saying? Let me withdraw that. Was Chad saying these things?
I don't remember which one was saying it.
But one of the two?
I would say it was one of the two because they were the host of this meeting.
Any reason to think that they both weren't embracing or believing whatever it is that they were talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
Anything else that came up in that conversation besides the 144,000?
They talked about they all have these special gifts that they were given, but they talked about they had multiple lives and done things in previous lives.
When you talk about these special gifts, did they elaborate at all on these special gifts?
There was there was, I just remember a couple. One was had power over the elements of the earth and had to be in certain places at a certain time to facilitate whatever God was doing.
Judge, I hate to interrupt, but could I have some foundation as to exactly which one of these guests was that talking about that?
I hate to interrupt.
Thank you. Awesome question, Judge. So you just mentioned this gift about power over the elements. Do you recall for the jury, who was it at this meeting that had those types of powers?
Zulema.
Were there any other special powers that were mentioned at the meeting?
Yeah, that I can recall, no. I remember Alex was to either do, or he was told that he was the angel that came to stop Laman and Lemuel when Nephi was being smitten.
Is that an LDS reference?
Yes.
The fuck?
What did Alex think about that or say about that particular belief?
He felt good because he was doing something good. He felt good that he was a good guy.
And during that meeting, did Chad ever discuss with you any role that he might want you to have in this gathering?
At that time, I don't think he did. I think it was for me just to get acquainted.
Did you have any discussions with him about your reaction to some of those things that were being taught?
Yes.
What discussion did you have with him about that?
But that if somebody's going to have the position to call the 144,000, that I felt like that would be a prophet of God that would have that responsibility.
Is it fair to say that you didn't believe that Chad was a prophet of God at that point?
No.
At any point?
No.
So did you tend to agree with some of those teachings that Chad was engaging in that day?
Judge, I'm going to object to the characterization.
I can respond.
Oh, it's overruled. Go ahead.
Did you have any disagreement? I'm sorry. Let me withdraw that. You can ask the question if you remember what it was.
I'm sorry.
I'll re-ask it. Did you agree or disagree generally with the things that Chad and others were teaching at that meeting?
I disagreed.
Do you remember specifically, besides the issue of a prophet, anything else that you disagreed with?
Yeah, they did. They talked about Satan having power to push people out of their bodies and taking possession of them.
Oh my God, warlock!
And then the person's spirit would be stuck in limbo. They couldn't go forward because the body was still alive.
Did you discuss that teaching with Chad at all?
Yeah, I just said Satan was never allowed that power because that's something he wanted to do from the beginning, and God put a boundary there so he could not do that.
So you didn't believe these things? Is that fair? Okay. During that meeting, did you notice anything about the way Chad and Lori interacted with one another?
They seemed really close. I mean, they were, they were really friendly with one another.
When you said really close and friendly, could you describe that more for the jury?
Well, I just noticed when Lori brought the food to the table, she kind of leaned on him as she put his plate down.
What did that indicate to you?
Affection.
Judge,
She rubbed her boobies on him. I need another pop. I'll be right back.
Did you notice anything else about their behavior that indicated to you anything about their relationship?
No.
Had you ever met Lori before that meeting?
No.
And was there another time that you interacted with Mr. Daybell?
Yes.
When do you recall that occurring?
That was September of 2019.
And what was that occasion?
I was at Lori's house to do a podcast with Lori and Melanie. And so I was there for that weekend, and Chad came over.
When you said you were at Lori's house, where was that at?
It was in Rexburg.
Did you get invited to come?
Yes.
And were you in Idaho for any other reason at that point?
We had just moved my son up to Pocatello, Idaho, so I was coming up to see them, and I was coming up for the Book of Mormon Evidence Conference. And then, and Melanie and Lori had been wanting to do a podcast, and so I just kind of made a weekend of it. And my plan was to stay in a hotel in Idaho Falls to be in between both places.
I'm glad
But,
it's getting
Melanie
exposed.
invited me and said, Lori said, stay
Too.
here. Don't need to put money in a hotel. We got an extra room for you. So.
And that was in reference to Lori's place?
Mhm.
So yes, for the record.
Yes.
And can you just
No need to pay for a hotel. You can just stay in my kids' rooms. You know, my daughter who's already gone, you can just sleep in her room. And then the other boy, we'll just throw him in the corner until we take care of him. You can have his room too. What a bunch of sickos.
describe Lori's place that you went and stayed at so the jury has an understanding of the layout?
It was when you walked in, there was a living room and a kitchen, just one room, and then a stairs on the right that went up to the bedrooms and bathrooms.
And when you arrived, who do you recall being at her apartment?
Lori and Alex and Melanie.
What about children? Were there children there?
JJ.
Did you have any?
He's the one that had the
JJ when you arrived there?
nightmare.
Yes, I tried a couple of times. He was sitting on the couch playing games, and so I tried to just get to know him a little bit, but he was pretty into his game.
He didn't want to talk to you, you
Did he
fucking
respond to you
weirdo.
then, or?
No.
And do you
He
have any
didn't like
special needs
you.
children yourself? Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
I have a Down syndrome boy
Jack, what's the
with
relevance of
autism.
Hold on.
Oh,
Objection, I haven't rolled. It's
relevant.
Hold on a
Judge, may I
second.
argue?
Did he just fucking say Down syndrome? Yo, these people are fucking rude. They're dumb, they're uneducated, and they're rude. Melanie Gibb and David Warwick did not like JJ. Let's just put that out there right now.
No, it's sustained, Mr. Wixom.
Okay. Did you have any further interaction with JJ at that point?
Just one more time. He had a
Listen to this again.
game.
Did he respond to you then, or?
No.
And do you have any special needs children yourself, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
I have a Down syndrome boy.
Jack,
and,
Oh, I
with
thought he was
autism.
talking about
Hold on.
JJ. My bad. Onyo.
Judge, may I argue?
No, it's sustained, Mr. Wixom.
Okay.
He said he's bringing up that he has a Down syndrome child. Well, get this. I believe, and maybe someone can correct me in chat, but I believe during Lori's trial, I looked into David Warwick's, and I think Melanie Gibb has a disabled son, and I believe that it lives in a home, if I'm not mistaken.
Did you have any further interaction with JJ at that point?
Just one more time. He had a box and he was cutting windows and doors in it, making a little toy house out of a cardboard box.
Did you try to talk to him?
Oh,
on
God
that
forbid
occasion?
he uses his creativity.
Any interaction with him then?
No.
Dude, because you're weird.
I think you already mentioned Chad was at this.
Oh, I'm
meeting
getting
or
mad.
gathering.
He showed up at least 2 or 3 times. He was kind of in and out.
Do you recall what span of time were you staying at Lori's apartment on this occasion?
Oh, the defense will ask him about
Friday
his nightmare.
night through Monday morning.
Friday night
So-
to Monday morning.
Roughly 3 days.
Yes.
So when you said that Chad was in and out, approximately how many times was Chad coming over that you recall?
I can recall twice for sure. It may have been a third time, but it's
When he came, how long would he stay?
maybe a half hour to an hour. It was never long.
Look at
Did
Chad
you have
staring
any
him down.
conversations with Chad while he was there?
Yes, I did.
And Judge, could I have some foundation as to when these meetings supposedly took place?
Wixom.
Certainly. When do you recall, the best you can by month and year, that you were at Lori's house on this occasion?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Best you can remember.
Oh my God.
Can you let the jury know what month and year were you at Lori's house on this occasion?
September 2019.
It's cocaine. It's cocaine.
And so back to the question about Chad. What do you remember talking to Chad about when he first?
Judge, again, I'm going to renew my foundation. We don't know which day of the week we're talking
Yeah,
about.
be
since
more
this was a
specific. Come
4-day
on.
Weekend.
Well, I think that's more appropriate for cross, so
Okay.
it is vague. But
He
Mr.
hasn't been
Wicks, you need to
cross-examined
continue.
yet.
Thank you. When's the first time over the course of the weekend that you can remember?
Continue.
Thank you.
The fuck?
When's the first time over the course of the weekend that you can remember that Chad came over? Do you remember what day of that weekend it was?
It was the weekend.
There was a glitch in the matrix.
September 20 to 23, or 19 to 23, or 19 to 22. I mean, whatever that weekend was, I just remember it was I remember the 23rd. So
This has been 5 years ago.
yeah.
Do you remember, you said earlier that you were there from Friday to roughly Monday morning.
Yeah.
Do you remember which day of that weekend that you first recalled Chad coming over?
Saturday.
So when Chad came over, explain to the jury what if any,
Saturday
conversation that you
night's
had
all
with him at that
right for partying.
That's they talked about anyway. That's when
Or for fighting, whatever.
I'm trying to remember what the reason was coming over. I don't remember the intent for the reason, but we talked about that's when I learned about more of their relationship.
What did you learn?
That they were that they had been together in past lives, and that they had a mission to do together.
Did they explain at that time what that mission was together?
Yes.
What was it?
To gather the 144,000.
Oh my God.
Did they discuss any more about their personal religious beliefs along that vein?
They just talked about terrestrial buildings that are on this earth that they can see. And
what did you understand that to mean? Did you say terrestrial or terrestrial?
Yeah, terrestrial.
What did you understand that to mean?
Just what it says.
Just what it says?
Did they explain what they thought that meant?
What?
They just said we want you to come over and we'll show it to you. So I mean, anyway, it's
come over where?
It was at some park next to a church.
So did you leave the apartment and go with them?
Well, we didn't go. We just went over there and met with them there.
So you left the apartment and met them at the park?
Yes.
Who did you meet at the park?
Chad and Lori and Melanie.
And Judge, could I have some foundation as to the date or the day of the week at the time that this took place?
Mr. Wixom, it's vague. I'll overrule the objection, but it's up to you.
Do you remember which day of the weekend specifically that you
Take the mic out of your mouth, dude.
Sunday.
When you got to the park, what happened?
We just walked around the park and they described the building.
What did they describe?
About a 2-story building made of stone and arches, and that's about all I can recall.
What?
You don't recall any specifics about the significance of the building or anything like that?
I don't.
Could you see a building the same place they were saying it was located?
No.
What did you see?
A beautiful park.
Did you perceive in any way, for your own observation, whether or not you thought Chad and Lori thought this building was there?
No.
No, you didn't perceive it?
No, I didn't perceive that. I didn't perceive that they were seeing the building. Is that what you mean?
That's my question, yes.
I'm sorry. Honestly.
Judge, non-responsive.
Sorry.
It's the same.
Sir, could you tell if Chad and Lori thought the building was there?
They talked like they did, but I didn't feel any truth in it.
Did they give you any reason why they were telling you about this or trying to show you this building?
And no, there was never really any reason explained. I think they were just trying to get my confidence.
What do you mean by that?
Get
me familiar with what they were doing
what was your perception about why they were trying to get you familiar with what they were doing?
My perception was
oh,
at
thank
the time,
you,
I honestly
Carolina.
didn't know what to expect. I was just kind of following along, but as I felt like they were just trying for me to be familiar with them and what they have and their gifts, so that I can be confident or more. I'm not sure if I'm coming up with the right word.
Thank you,
more
Carolina.
Of an assurance that what they were doing is true. Kind of like trying to witness what they have.
Can I get a
Prior
witness?
to walking around this park at any time on Friday or Saturday, had you expressed anything back to Chad about any of these teachings or beliefs that were being discussed?
I I just talked to him about Satan and the evil spirits. They don't have that power. It's not going to be given them, and that the gathering of 144,000, that would be done by the prophet or somebody called under his authority.
Would it be fair to say that you'd explain to them that you weren't really accepting these beliefs?
Yeah.
Now, during this weekend, at any time, did you observe anything about Chad and Lori's interaction with each other that gave you any clues about the relationship?
They were more affectionate.
In what regard?
Come on.
He walked up behind her, put his arms around her.
Anything else?
I think there was a kiss on the cheek. There was some head rubbing.
Anything about that aspect of their relationship that bothered you that weekend?
Yes.
What was it that bothered you?
That he was still married to Tammy.
Did you ever confront him about that?
Yes.
What did you say to him?
I just asked him.
You confronted him, my ass.
I just asked him about his marriage to Tammy. If she was, was she happy? Was he happy with her? Was she a good wife? Was she a good mother?
How'd he respond?
He said, yes, she was very good. And he said that she was good.
Anything else in that conversation specifically?
Well, he said that Lori was going to be his next wife. They'd been married before, and they're going to fulfill this mission together, and that he had a dream that Tammy was going to be passing by the time he was 50 or 51.
For God's sakes.
Did you have anything further that you said to him about that?
I just, not that I can recall. I know we talked more, but I can't recall
You're a liar.
I just felt uncomfortable that you'd have a call like that and you're still married.
Because you're a liar.
Now, when you say a call like that, can you explain to the jury what you mean by a call like that?
The call that he was called together, the 144,000.
This dude is nuts.
So, did you have any interactions with Chad that you can recall on Sunday of that weekend? I'm sorry, I'll withdraw that. After you got back from the park, did you have any further interaction with Chad that weekend?
Yes.
What was that interaction?
He said that there was 80 acres for sale over there by his place. And I have an associate that wanted to do a development in Rexburg. So he told me about this 80 acres that would be a good place to do it. And I just told him, I said, well, I don't have time. It's Sunday. I don't do business on Sunday, but I said, I'll go ahead and drive by it and just see if I get any vibes. And then talk to
Get any vibes?
associate of mine down in Utah about it.
What did you mean by see if you get any vibes? What did that mean?
Just to see if it felt like a good place to do a development.
As a builder, does this happen with you sometimes? Do people come?
Yes.
And then how did that interaction end when you went over to look at the property?
Yeah, we went over there we followed Alex over. He took us to where it was, and we just got out and we were just looking at the property and getting ready to leave. And then Chad and a guy that he was serving with in church, a realtor named Ron, they showed up.
A realtor named Ron. Many people
He
in
just
this.
wanted Ron to meet me, and then Ron wanted to go over the deal, and I just said, just send me emails on it. I don't want to talk about it today.
When you were done looking at his property, did you eventually go back to Lori's apartment?
Yes.
Did you have more conversation with Chad then at the apartment?
Not that I can recall.
At any point over this weekend, did Chad ever suggest that you would have any role in this 144,000 gathering?
Yes.
When did that occur? Remember what day?
I believe that was on Saturday.
And what was that conversation?
That I was to assist him in gathering 144,000. And that's actually when I said, well, that would be a call that would come from a prophet. And two, I knew that my life, even if that call existed, my life is not in order to be able to do it, to be able to do something like that.
What?
Mr. Wixom, I'm going to suggest we take our mid-afternoon break at this time, just one time.
Christ almighty.
So we'll go ahead and...
Boyce is like, I can't take no more of this dude. All right, let's skip forward. Let's see, does he get cross-examined? Oh, he does. Let's skip forward to cross-examination, shall we? And then we shall be all caught up, guys. How exciting. Without wasting all of our day, we're caught up on the Daybell trial. Get ready for it. Here is John Pryor cross-examining David Warwick. About a half an hour, it looks like.
Good afternoon. Mr. Warwick, you previously mentioned that you were married to Melanie Gibb.
Yes.
Okay. What was the date of the marriage?
December 10th, 2020.
Close and around the time of all of these occurrences. Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Set that
Well, a
foundation.
year later, I guess.
Okay.
Set
And
that
when did you first
foundation
meet Miss
prior.
Gibb?
At a conference at UVU.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember the date.
That's okay. Just take your time. We're not in a hurry.
Okay. Met her at a conference. I think it was I don't remember the year. It's probably 2000.
See ya, Michelle.
2012 or 2013 or 14, somewhere in there.
Okay. And then approximately when did the two of you start dating?
We started in August of 2019.
You're such a liar. You did not.
Now, at the time, you had mentioned that it sort of offended you that Mr. Daybell was married and was seeing someone even though he was still legally married, right?
Well, in relation to the things that they were, like the beliefs that they were, didn't match up.
Huh?
The beliefs didn't match up.
Well, what they were saying they were doing about their calling and then seeing each other didn't match up. That's
inconsistent.
Yeah, it's you just.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, nope, I'm done. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I'm done.
So what he was preaching wasn't consistent with the way he was acting. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, but
please,
at the time you started dating Miss Gibb, you were still married too, weren't you?
Yeah, my divorce was just getting finalized.
But you started dating her while you were still legally married, weren't you?
Well, I made the mistake. I thought I was doing the 30-day waiver.
Okay.
On for the time.
What?
And but I didn't understand. That the judge needed another 60 days after the 30 days. And I'd already paid for two plane tickets to have some time with her in August with my son Nicholas.
Wait, what?
And so,
what? Why is he saying her? Like, who? What? Let's hear that part again.
Right.
Well, in relation to the things that they were, like the beliefs that they were, didn't match up.
The beliefs didn't match up.
Well, what they were saying they were doing about their calling and then seeing each other didn't match up. That's
inconsistent.
Yeah, it's you just.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, nope, I'm done. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. So what he was preaching wasn't consistent with the way he was acting. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay. At the time you started dating Miss Gibb, you were still married too, weren't you?
Yeah, my divorce was just getting finalized.
Okay. But you started dating her while you were still legally married, weren't you?
Well, I made the mistake. I thought I was doing the 30-day waiver.
Okay.
On for the time. And but I didn't understand. That the judge needed another 60 days after the 30 days. And I'd already paid for two plane tickets to have some time with her in August with my son Nicholas. And so we just went forward and went and did those two things for August.
Right. So in other words, you traveled. So when you met her in August of 2019, you were already planning on going on a vacation with her. Is that right?
No, not a vacation.
What was it?
One was the Zion. It's called the Zion's Camp. It's
not a vacation.
It's a kind of educational camp.
Okay.
And I wanted to see how she would do with my son Nicholas.
Okay.
And I was taking care of my son Nicholas. That was the whole reason for the divorce, because my wife at the time, it was too much. We had him with us for several weeks. And so,
oh my God,
I don't have time. I don't know how much time you want for the details, but that was the whole motivation was,
you divorced your wife because she wasn't taking proper care of your son Nicholas, and it's all about Nicholas, right?
No, we mutually agreed.
Okay.
We did not want a divorce, but we needed to get Nicholas out of the home that he was in because he was suffering some abuses there.
Okay.
If you'd like to go into more, I'd be happy to.
We don't have to.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't want to
That's
get into this
okay.
much, but I just wanted to clarify a few things that were of a concern. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about an organization called the Seven Gatherers. You're familiar with that, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, liar.
And to your knowledge, your wife isn't a member of the Seven Gatherers, right?
I don't know anything about Seven Gatherers.
Okay. Thank you. Now, both of you go to various camps and conferences and meetings and speak about religious subjects. Is that fair?
Yes.
And both of you have a I don't want to use the term expertise, a knowledge of certain areas of religious beliefs. Would that be fair?
Yes.
And your particular area of knowledge is in what?
It's
General contracting.
it's about there was the conversion, my conversion to Christ and his church, and the gifts and dreams and visions that came afterwards.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So when we talk about that, let's cut this down a little bit to really so these folks understand. It's really about, you go to these camps in rural, these fireside chats is what they're talking about, or mentioned as, correct? Fireside chats?
Yes, I would be a speaker at the fireside, one of the firesides at the camp.
And the subject that you would discuss would be visions that you have that you would want to translate to them and talk to these people at these fireside chats about these various visions and experiences, premonitions that you have.
Oh, Christ.
No, it was about my conversion and the faith, and then the fruits of that faith.
Oh, you've
It
never.
was to build faith. It
Oh.
was the dreams and visions were not necessarily discussed at the camps in much detail. There's many aspects to dreams and visions about many topics. So it was about, the whole purpose was to help inspire people to seek God, to seek his truth, in relationship with the Holy Ghost, bearing witness of that truth.
Okay. So the fact that you experience these visions and you have these visions, that's not necessarily what you're talking to these people about, but you do in fact have made various representations about visions that you've had over the years. Is that right?
Yes.
And some of these visions have included being invaded by foreign powers, right?
Yes. Objection relevance, Your Honor.
It's a late objection. It's already been answered.
Being
I'm sorry, Judge, I
invaded
missed
by
that.
foreign.
I overrule the objection because it wasn't timely.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judge. And some of these visions deal with religious matters as well.
Yes.
And that's something that you've gone to conferences to speak about as well, right?
And aspects.
Right.
It just
Okay.
depending on the topics and then whatever I felt right in my heart that was allowed to be.
And really, it's your experience in your
Hey, Kels.
it's your experience in your LDS faith that you're trying to communicate with these people and talk about these conversions and things that you've experienced as part of your understanding of your LDS faith.
Objection, Your Honor. Rule 610.
Judge, could we approach and have a sidebar?
Yes.
He is. Pryor is something else, man. Can we have a sidebar? All right, now here sits Chad. Look at Chad. Oh, let me organize my pens. Let me twiddle my thumbs. I don't want to look over there. Oh, fuck no, I don't want to look over there. There's a little speck. God, I wish they'd get done. Really, really wish. Oh, I don't want to look over there. Lots of victims in the gallery. I do not want to look over there. Did he just nod or did his chin just get heavy? Oh, I might need to open up this laptop and look busy. Because I'm sitting here looking clueless. My nails. Forgot to cut those suckers. This is a long sidebar. Please tell me they don't leave after this. They don't. We still have time. This is a really long sidebar. We're on 2 times speed. Ooh, he's looking at his tiny little fat sausage fingers. Why does he always close that computer? I do not freaking know. But Chad commentary during sidebars is the bomb. Like, what is he thinking about as he sits there? You gotta wonder. My goodness, this is the longest sidebar in this trial. Even the witness is readjusting himself. He's like, fuck this. Warlocks. They're fighting for warlocks' rights right now. Pryor wants to expose the fuck out of this guy. And the prosecution is fighting for Warlock's rights. You got to fight for your right to be a complete fucking douchebag. Look at him. Look at Chad. Oh, yeah. He still believes my bullshit. He writes me letters. Yep. Warlocks, I got your letter. I'm saying a prayer for you right now, David Warlocks. Oh, I might need to open that laptop. Let me see. God, I had no idea that my lawyer was going to take this long. There's no water in that cup. Oh, yeah, there we go. I had to do it. I had to open it. All right, let me just tap on these keys and just pretend. Because I really don't have access to anything but all these documents that say all the bad shit I did. I don't want to read those. Got a piece of that tuna stuck in my tooth. Reminds me of Lori. Oh, let's shut this. I don't want to look at that stuff. Oh, thank God. They're coming back. Thank the Lord. Eight to 10 weeks, Miss Chris. Even Boyce got up to take a pee.
All right, counsel, we are back on the record on CR 22-21-1623. The court had a sidebar to make an evidentiary ruling outside presence of the
finally
jurors.
went up,
I
didn't
sustained
it?
an objection, and I'll ask the jurors to disregard the previous question. Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to continue with your cross, you may.
So, Mr. Warwick, we were on the subject of visions, and that you explained to me that these visions are only a small part of what you lecture at these fireside mountain retreats and at these conferences and at these meetings. Is that fair?
Yes.
And part of these visions is consistent with your faith, right?
Yes.
So if you were to have these various visions about certain events, that's not something that's particularly inconsistent with your faith, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if Chad Daybell were to have visions of certain events, that's not necessarily inconsistent with his faith either, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit because I'm a little unclear. There's been some testimony about what vibrations are. Do you understand the term vibrations?
I'm
I
thinking
understand the
of
term, but I don't understand the context.
good
Okay, the context is in a
vibrations.
religious context, that you get some sort of feedback that has a religious perspective to it. So in that context, do you understand or have had familiarity with that process?
Yes.
Okay, what is that experience or knowledge that you have as it relates to vibrations?
Hey, Mimsy.
Not understanding what you're after, Mr. Pryor.
Okay, well, in a religious context, have you participated in meetings or gatherings that dealt with the subject of vibrations?
No.
You haven't?
No.
Has your wife gone on seminars and spoke about, while you were there, about this theory and idea of vibrations?
Not that I recall.
Okay. All right. Then what is your wife's been as well has been called to a number of places to speak as well as a guest at a number of places, correct?
Yes.
And it's similar topics, but hers has a little bit of a slant. What's her area of knowledge?
This is more about believing and overcoming unbelief.
Okay, and be more specific.
Do what?
Okay.
Do what?
Like in what way
Flung.
overcoming non-belief? What do you mean?
He doesn't even know what he means. He's so fucking Looney Tune.
Well, she did health. Actually, hers was more on health. The ones that I've seen, because she does foot reflexology.
Okay.
And teaches about the body, and it works with the nerves through the feet.
Okay. All right.
Because a lot of the speaking things that she had done, I was not involved with. A lot of that had happened before we got together.
I'm
And
dead.
the items that she would talk about.
I'd never witnessed what she spoke about.
By the way, Mr. Warwick, please don't just interject in your
Sorry.
response.
Yeah. Mr.
In the
Warwick,
middle of
zip
anyone
it.
else talking, it's difficult for the court reporter.
And Mr. Warwick, I'm going to be guilty of that too a couple of times. So we'll try to be patient with each other. Okay. So
Shut the fuck up.
when you say before you met her, she's been speaking about religious topics before you folks even met, right?
Yes.
And you guys met again when?
Officially, we met the end of May 2019.
He don't
Okay.
know.
But unofficially, you met well before that in what, 2012?
Yeah, she was in the line of people, and they just came up to tell me that they appreciated the talk that I gave. That was it.
And prior to May of 2019, it was she engaged in the same sort of speaking circuit. She would go to these fireside retreats and she would do these conferences well before she ever met Chad Daybell, right?
Yeah, but she wasn't, from my understanding, she was not a speaker for years. She just they organized some podcast. I can't remember the name of it right now. Anyway, and that's what they were mainly doing, was podcast. I never recall ever seeing her speak at any of these events.
Okay.
Come on, Warwick.
So she would organize these events and she would sort of gather these people and bring the groups together to talk about these various religious subjects, right?
Religious and health and child, raising children. There was multiple things that she's let me know that she's been doing.
Which one of you talked at these preparedness camps about and you know what I'm talking about, these preparedness camps that you would go up to, right? And what exactly were they preparing for?
Oh, they just basically teaching you how to different ways to be self-reliant through growing food, have energy, and
what?
There was any topic to be prepared, so that when tribulations, or you're able to provide.
That will scare somebody.
Better serve. There's all kinds of things about how to cook and how to set up camps. All kinds of.
You weren't teaching about cooking, right?
What's that?
You weren't teaching about cooking, right?
Nope.
You weren't teaching.
I didn't teach. I just gave a fireside. I shared my story of my conversion
and your visions to some extent.
To some extent, there'd be something that would come up, but not much on a camp like that.
About some of the things that you predicted that would happen in the future, right?
I do.
Not that I predict. No, it was what I was shown.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake.
Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, right. It's not you that are making these. They aren't predictions. They're, and please forgive me. You put the right word on it. They're premonitions about things that you saw that you believe you need to share with other people. Is that fair?
No.
They're visions of things that you see that are brought to you some way, and that you believe are things that would occur in the future. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've heard the term light and dark. Are you familiar with those terms?
Yes.
Light and dark. Would you agree with me that the term light and dark are synonymous with the words good and evil?
Yeah. Yes.
They could be interchanged.
Yes.
And it just depends really on your how you're brought up, what terms your family's using. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Some families will say, this is good and this is evil. Other families would say, this is light and this is dark. Would you agree with that?
I've never heard the light and dark explained that way. I've always heard that, they just say this is good and evil.
Okay.
I've never heard explained the way you just said it.
Okay. But you've heard the terms light and dark.
Mm-hmm.
And the light and dark term is in at least your faith, is referenced a number of times in your faith.
Yes.
We can go back and show you you're aware of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So that's not a foreign term to you, the term light and dark, right?
Right.
Okay. That's part of your faith, right?
It's part of life.
Right. All right. Well,
I wasn't raised, I didn't have faith, and I knew about light and dark way before faith.
Okay. And Mr. Daybell and you share at least the same faith generally in the beginning, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Daybell would be familiar with the term light and dark. He's spoken to you about that, right?
Yes.
Okay. But the area that I'm confused is the area called portals. Have you heard that term?
Yes.
We're all
Okay.
confused about
And
that.
Was teaching about dark portals, was that something your wife would ever do?
I don't know. I never heard her teach.
Okay. So you don't know if she's teaching anybody about a dark portal or a light portal or any kind of portal, right?
Right.
Conveniently.
Judge, this might be a place where we can gather up again. It's up to the court.
Gather up
or whatever the court prefers. All right. I know it feels like we've had breaks today, but I'm pretty committed to keeping our jurors on the schedule that we've determined. So we are going to take our break for the day. We'll conclude and continue on with further cross tomorrow. Before
There we go.
we conclude, just a few things. Mr. Warwick, I'll be asking you again in the morning if you've reviewed any of this trial testimony or anything. So you're still subject to that exclusionary order.
Yeah, don't watch
For the
shit
jurors,
like you did in
Again,
Lori's.
the admonishment, please don't do anything to review or investigate the case in any way. If you see any news coverage, footage, et cetera, don't try to avert your attention from that, I should say. Don't.
All right, there we go. We are done with day 8. So we are all caught up. And I'm thinking, depending on how juicy tomorrow is, we may skip a day and then pick it up again possibly on Wednesday. So be looking for the next event for this. I thank you guys all for joining. It's great. I mean, there's not a huge crowd of us here, but we are all following and we're all listening and we're zoned in on what we're listening to. And that to me is better than a wild, crazy night. You know what I mean? Oh, Casey, enjoy that cheesecake. So yeah, I think they'll get into the dream and the as he keeps going on. I think he's definitely going to get to that. Yes, I believe so too, Justice Jane. It's so gross. She said, I believe they sit around that fire pit circle. Remember the neighbor smelled smoke in the area. That's what alerted the satellite. It is fun. It is. Thanks for becoming members and everybody who donated memberships. Thank you for your donation of your membership and welcome to the recipients of those memberships. So make sure that, I think they said they are way ahead of schedule. So I don't think it's going to go that long, Chris. Hopefully. They did say that they're way ahead though. So that's a good thing. Kels, thank you so much. Coming in hot at the end. Let's give you some turkeys, girl. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you hit that like button. It does help. It does help. And we're going to roll our credits and thank everyone who joined, whether they're still here or not. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the satellite where they were able to find the bodies, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Justice Jane can reiterate what she means or go a little deeper into that into the chat while we dance it out. Thank you so much, guys. If you remember, come on in the Discord. See you in there. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, 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 damn. You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time. I ain't got time for that.
Roro causing Papa.
Roro, who was Roro?
And niggas like me once they get that good punani.
In the name of Jesus, Father God, Lord.
One Jennifer or two Jennifer?
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Everybody does.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
Jennifer loves horses.